Okay, welcome everybody. Bienvenidos. Welcome to the SJSU SJPL Library. We are here today in partnership on behalf of the San Jose State Library and the San Jose Public Library to welcome you all here to the space. And welcome to our authors. We're so delighted and thrilled that you could be here with us today. My name is Peggy Cabrera, and I am one of the SJSU librarians, and this is...
My name's Elizabeth Barragan. I am one of the SJPL librarians.
So we are here to welcome you. I want to remind everybody we have some drinks and pan dulce in back. Please help yourself. If you need to use the restroom, it's down the hall. Just keep following the hallway and you'll find it. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so I want to remind everybody we do have some books for sale on the left-hand side. So please visit the store and get your copy of Somos Xicanas, and you can get it autographed by our illustrious authors here today. Okay, we have several contributors today. We're having a program today at 1:30 as well as 6:30. We will have some of the same authors for the same program this evening, but we'll have a couple more. So, and if you don't hear an author you wanted to hear earlier, please come back.
Yeah, just really quickly, whether you've read the book cover to cover or just getting introduced to it, we're excited to hold a space for dialogue, reflection, and connection. So just open your ears and your mind and your heart. It's going to be a really good panel.
Okay, I believe Maria is going to take over and introduce the authors. I do want to invite my colega, Essie. She has a small thank you for our authors. So a rose to make everybody smile.
Thank you. Thank you. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon. Thank you, Somos, for inviting me. Thank you, ROSANNA ALVAREZ, especially for inviting me to do the land acknowledgement. My name is Dr. Maria Elena Cruz. I teach here in CCS, but I'm also the director for TRIO programs on campus. My indigenous ancestry is Huirarica. We are Huichol, better known as Huichol, central Mexico, kind of central north foothills of the Sierra Madre Occidental. And I'm also one of the founders of Gathering of Academic Indigenous Native Americans called GAIN. It is a group that we formed here to help all our students, staff, and faculty, have a space to belong, right? Because oftentimes we Native Indigenous people are not acknowledged, right? So I'm here to do the land acknowledgement, and this was written by the Muwekma Ohlone people, so I'm going here to honor them. The San Jose State University community recognizes that the present-day Muwekma Ohlone tribe, with an enrolled Bureau of Indian Affairs, documented membership of over 550 indigenous people that are Muwekma Ohlone here from this area, right? And a lot of people don't know that. I like to begin by, saying and recognizing that while we gather at San Jose State University, we are gathered on the ethno-historic tribal territory of the Tamian Ohlone, who were the direct ancestors and lineages enrolled in the Muwekma Ohlone tribe, and who were missionized into missions Santa Clara, San Jose, and Dolores. The lands on which San Jose State University was established and is established continues to be a significance to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe and is very significant. We also recognize that the ancestors of the Muwekma Ohlone constructed and maintained the 3 Bay Area missions here of Muwekma Ohlone, and they are held in the Tupanek, a traditional roundhouse, which were all once located in the historic Lope Huayengo land grant, Rancho Pozomí y Positas de las Animas, little wells of souls. So there was spaces like that here and still are here. And also Marcelo Pio Cristobal's land grant, Rancho Ulistec, which were places of celebration and religious ceremonies, as well as nearby ancestral heritage shell mounds that served as the tribe's traditional cemetery sites and territorial monuments. San Jose State University also desires to honor all the military people of the Muecama Ohlone men and women who have served honorably during World War I, World War II, Korean War, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and who are still serving in the United States Armed Forces today. Without further ado, I'd like to say welcome to the ancestral land of the Ohlone and the Muecama and Ohlone peoples. And I will hand it over to these beautiful panelists, and we can't wait to hear all your beautiful voices come to life from your book. And congratulations on the book, Somos Xicanas. Thank you.
I need the clicker. I'm like, we're inaccurately thinking. Oh my gosh, look, I have the power now. All right. So thank you, students and community members, for being here with us today. We'll get to what we got here for. It's been a long day, and I'm grateful that these beautiful creative voices have given of their time to come and tell us a little bit about their work and to share that work with us. And I was like, you know what? I could talk about it, but it makes more sense to just start rolling it into the queue, because who we have amongst us here front and center is none other than Brenda VACA. And Brenda has been hustling this book so hard amongst being a contributor. So I think that the best way to do right by the anthology is to hand it off to you, let you say a few words about the collection, and then we'll get to the order of business in terms of everybody reading their work. But y'all don't know Brenda, and let me tell you about Brenda's chismes, right? And Brenda's chismes are vast and expansive. She's a Chicana poet, author, independent publisher from Sejatanga. I'll let you say it again. Sejatna, yes. Unceded Tongva territory known as South Whittier, California. She earned her BA in English at UC Berkeley with a minor in creative writing. She was not playing when she was in undergrad. Some of you are in that seat right now. Later, she went on to graduate school in Berkeley, earning a Master of Divinity and a Master of Arts in Biblical Languages from the Pacific School of Religion and Graduate Theological Union. She served as an ordained elder working primarily in Latinx communities. I met her when she was doing this work because I was working at Somos Mayfair, and there she was, supporting the peoples in the United Methodist Church for over 10 years in East San Ho until an interfaith pilgrimage, I told you there would be chisme, to Central America in August 2015 altered the course of her life and all of ours. And now she's dedicated to her true life's passion, bringing the stories to the people and the people to the stories. My gente, can we get a round of applause for Brenda VACA?
Test 1 2. Right on. Hi everyone. Thank you, Rosanna, so much for gathering us today for that awesome introduction. San Jose is definitely near and dear to my heart. I lived here for a season in the early 2000s, maybe not quite that far, but I was working right up the road on King, not too far from Story, at a little Latino church. So it's really awesome to be here with you all for the first time as a poet and as a publisher. I come very proud from Los Angeles to participate in this panel with my hermanas here for celebrating Somos Xicanas anthology. I do want to, give thank you especially to really the person that brought us all together is our editor, our visionary editor, Lou Schweg, all the way in Virginia. She probably will join us virtually if anyone's like snapping pictures and whatnot. Luce envisioned this anthology decades ago, and it's been a labor of love for her, a vision on her heart to gather the voices of our Chicana universe, of which there's so many of us. Although it feels like there's so poquitas, right? There's so few, but we are here. This anthology is over 80 contributing writers. many of them trailblazing Chicana writers, names you will recognize like Ada Limon, Sandra Cisneros, Sana Castillo, Lorna Di Cervantes, Dr. Irene Blea, Carmen Tafoya, the list goes on. And there's emerging writers that are, first time getting published, right? Is in this collection. First time, publishing books. Myself as a new publisher as well, just about 3 years old. This anthology brings us all together from our multiple experiences as humans. And what I've been enjoying saying is that we as Chicanas and Chicana writers, we are not a monolith. We represent so many different, beautiful, complex experiences. And so I'm really glad to be here with you all. Si me permiten, can I read something from the introduction?
Yes, I was going to prompt you past the introduction. Once you read the introduction, also roll right into your work because we'd love to hear it también.
100%. All right. I'm going to read this excerpt from the introduction that is from our editor. It's probably one of my favorite paragraphs that I read when I participate in readings like this. This is from Luce Schweg. I specifically entered into this project with the intention of illuminating the Chicana perspective, with the premise that the introspective Chicana voice has an internally generated, intuitive hermeneutic through which it asserts and understands itself. I respectfully sought to set aside any preconceptions of my own about what it means to be a Chicana, and rather than guiding the themes in the book, allowed my hermanas to speak for themselves, careful to honor the ways in which they did. I called on my hermanas to shine a light on the diverse ways they view themselves in the world. Almost overnight, the submissions began pouring in. Many stories, poems, and essays later, I am awed at the ways these Chicanas writers showed up and courageously bled words onto pages like ancestral ritualistic offerings of Tenochca priestesses. The reason I love that paragraph in particular is because it highlights how sacred this work is to share and be vulnerable with ourselves first as writers, but also with our community, and to find power in that vulnerability. So thank you for listening. And you want me to just jump right on in? All right. I'm going to read an excerpt from my one contribution to the anthology. It's a poem. It's a really long poem. I tend to be a wordy writer, so I'll just read an excerpt, and you can read it all at your leisure. It's called Ode to the Resurrection of Mayahuel, and this was a poem. It's an ekphrastic poem, which means it's a poem written inspired by a work of art. That work of art is called The Resurrection of Mayahuel by Chicano master artist Rick Ortega, who was inspired by the Me Too movement. And this is part 4. We're tired of saying Me Too. We're tired of having to stand before you and shout out what's true. Tired of holding the shame within, the anger too. What would you do? Would you speak your truth? Las hijas de Mayahuel, we rise like smoke. Our power, it burns your throat. We hold you accountable for what you've done, generation upon generation, not just one mother's son. A legion of demons has violated even little ones. Oh, we're tired of saying Me Too. The truth is, we just want to live, to rise in the morning with the heaviness of eyelids, not our hearts, not these bodies. Hear Sensotle sing their song. Feel plumed serpent's kiss again and again as a Hecatl carries us to shelter. Isn't that our birthright?
Thank you so much, Brenda. And Mayahuel is my favorite danza to offer because it calls in the elders into the room. And so it becomes an intergenerational conversation. If you're just joining us, have a seat, help yourself to some pan dulce. That's not for just us. You too can have a little sweet with your poetry.
We have a beautiful lineup of mujeres here with us, contributors, and we were very intentional about making sure that they were local voices, right? And our locality is vast and extensive, so we have a few folks who flew in on wheels. And I'm so glad that, we're making it work. And you're going to notice that we are not a perfect bunch. So at some point, I'm going to be like, how do we get Elizabeth the microphone? Because that's who's coming up next. And I'm going to pass you this one because I don't like using this one. I don't need it. I'm going to pass that one. And then two, the other thing is, just because logistically we all flew in on a rush, including my students, if you will prefer to be at the podium, también help yourself. Pero let me introduce our next poet in the lineup because she has indeed made it. And I'm going to click us to the right profiles. But we have none other than local voice extraordinaire Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo. And Elizabeth is a visual artist, poet, and facilitator based in the Greater Bay Area. Her work explores heritage, culture, identity through indigenous Mesoamerican and Chicana influences, fostering unity, empowerment, and healing. She paints, she sculpts, she writes, she publishes. She's been exhibited in so many amazing local spaces. If you haven't had a chance to learn about her art, my peoples who have work due in my class, she would be a good person to research and find out more about. She has received grants from MACLA, Root Division, and the California Arts Council. She is the manager of Roots Artist Registry and founder of La Raíz magazine. And it is my pleasure to introduce you to the mic. Échale.
Oh yeah. There you go. There was a light, but it was red, not green. Okay. Gracias, Rosanna. And yeah, it's an honor to be on this in this group, representing Somos Xicanas anthology. And I'm just gonna share 3 poems with you today. So the first one is the one that I have that's published in Somos Xicanas, and it's called Stereotype Me Sometime. Obviously about like stereotypes that we face as Chicanas. Stereotype me sometime. Sometimes I'm a Chicana and a chongo with bright blue nails, darkened eyebrows, big earrings, and chanclas. Sometimes I'm a hard-working Mexicana, looking all sweaty and tired in my worn-out jeans, mis tenis, with my daughter. Suddenly, I'm that spicy Latina you dream about, though you'll never admit it. Red lipstick, smile, and a dress. Some days, I'm a sweet, smart Mexican girl, gentle, graceful, minding those manners, even when you call me Hispanic. Sporadically, I'm a prissy, oh-so-educated Latina, being aggressive and combative, so disagreeable, so defiant. I'll snap at you, seduce you, scold you, soothe you, school you. So sweaty, so sassy, so sexy, so sweet, so subversive, scandalous. Okay, ese es uno. Okay, gracias. The next one, it's hopefully a little bit funny. We need some humor, right? And what people keep saying que these days, pero like it's always been, right? Just gets worse sometimes. Pero, all right, it's called Pinche Prince Charming. All right, I'm waiting for that pinche Prince Charming. I'm waiting for that pinche Prince Charming to fall off the white horse. I'm waiting for that pinche Prince Charming to fall off the white horse so I can ride it, off into the moonlight, trade it for a dark brown horse with a dark wild mane, a horse that is crazy and rebelde. I'll kiss it and it will turn into a man as real and broken as all the others. I'm not going to try to tame him. He needs to kick down those fences, toss exploiters off his back. I'll watch and laugh and then feed him elotes, ground up into masa for tortillas y tamales, boiled into pozole, or we'll just find the taco trucks, la mujer de los tamales in the parking lot, some pozole at the festival. He can eat out of my hands if he wants. Bucking off parasites is simple. Stomping fences is quick work. Freedom is easy, but liberation comes hard. So he can eat out of my hands if he wants. I'll never ask him to turn back into a horse, no matter what Prince Charming says. Prince Charming say a lot of sweet nothing, batting pretty eyes, puras pendejas promesas, before they go back to their hell, tail between their legs. I'll never ask him to turn back into a horse, and he'll never get caught either. I love the way he liberates when nobody is looking, stomping fences that nobody knew existed, bucked off and they don't remember until long after he's gone. I can make pozole if he wants me to, con chile, repollo, oregano y todo. I can bundle those tamales for steaming in a pot. I can make those tortillas with my 2 brown hands and maybe a press, calientitas on the comal that lives abajo y a la izquierda, on the stove next to the pot for tamales y pozole. There are the bowls and the cucharon. We'll talk and laugh over transformed elotes, about transformed elotes, about how elotes transformed, how elotes transformed us, and we still eat them, con mayonesa, queso y chile, on a stick. Nobody's going to tame him. Nobody's going to tame me. I'm as broken as all the others. Kiss me and I'll turn into a human. Love me and I'll turn into a feast. But most days, I'm nothing but a beast. See my dark, wild mane. I am the brown horse I traded for. I am the white horse I traded away. The white horse Prince Charming fell off of. The white horse that bucked off pinche Prince Charming. And I can assure you, he never saw that coming. Okay, and the last one is about, is referring to that whole, like, talk about human sacrifice whenever we talk about, like, Chicanos or Mexicans or our history, and it's always, oh, the sacrifices, and, like, bloody, violent history, as if, like, colonization wasn't bloody and violent, and, this whole society isn't founded on genocide. So my poem is called Sacrifice Me. Sacrifice me. No, not on top of a pyramid that isn't even a pyramid. No, don't pull out my heart. You already did that. No, don't commission an artist to draw me pulling out my own heart. Be original. Sacrifice me. Sacrifice me slowly. Brain first. Fill it with mierda. Lies about how my people were the savage ones. How we worship the sun, painting planets you discovered yesterday, but the sun drank blood. Tell me how we worshipped white skin, waiting for the return of Quetzalcoatl, who had grown 2 heads, horse legs, and sharp swords, that could write lies in Latin languages, then call me Latina. Sacrifice me slower, body next. Tell them to feed me powders, while you keep my mama busy working for you. Tell them to feed me white rice cereal, get the diseases started early. The doctors got bills to pay. Keep me in my classroom seat, keep me snacking on sugary snacks, sugary drinks, legal crack for kids, fast food in the school cafeterias, vending machines in every high school. Recess, who wants to play on concrete, not a tree in sight, on a playground with no swings, 1 slide for 6 dozen kids. You have to ask if you want to use a ball, but they ran out anyway. You want to brainwash our kids in public schools, painted like jails, and you call me sick? Sacrifice me more quickly now. Face it, you still want my heart. You raped, killed, enslaved, tortured, no exceptions for babies and little girls, and you still do. But that's okay with you, because we ripped each other's hearts out, supposedly. And that makes us worse, makes an excuse. You ripped my heart out, and it was easy. As easy as ignoring me, as easy as excluding me, as easy as telling me you're better than me, saying your mom is better than mine. As easy as telling me you won. So now you can feed off my milk guilt-free, drink my blood, wear my brown skin, hang my long silky hair on your wall as a trophy because you sacrificed me. In your dreams, wake up, I'm not dead yet. My long hair is seeping into your walls, my skin has attached itself to yours, my blood and milk gave you life, gave you lengua y corazón. You chopped me into pieces and now I surround you. Wake up, I'm not dead yet. I got my body back, shoved my heart back in my chest. They picked the mierda from my brain. Your God has not swallowed me. Here I am speaking echoes of your sacrifice. You sacrificed me, and my body became the earth, became the plants, became animals, became you. Y muchas gracias. And I just wanted to share real quick. I am Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo, and my book just came out. I was actually going to read a poem from it, but I'll do that later at the 6:30 reading. Y muchas gracias por incluirme.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Taking a quick second to also appreciate that. I hope you brought some books, and I think you did, right? So after the program, we have the Somos Xicanas anthology back there, but alongside that, books from some of us up here on the panel. But I want to take a second to appreciate how thick she is, right? She's a thick book. There are a lot of voices in here. And so to understand that this is an intergenerational conversation, in our class, the Intro to Chicano Studies class, we've been trying to figure out what is the definition of Chicano, Chicana, Chicane, Chicanx. So we are speaking to you from that space beyond the margins and giving you different constellation points of how we are defining that experience, how we are living that experience. So I hope as you hear these words, you're also connecting your experience to that, because we are relational beings. So thank you, Elizabeth, for ending your segment right now with that poem that gets us back to the earth. And at the end of the day, the earth is our relative. And enjoy the beautiful poetry, right? Everybody has a different style. Next up in the queue, I'm trying to figure out how my clickers be working over here. The clicker doesn't want to work anymore. So I'm going to have Sendy. And I'll be over here breaking rules and doing what I want. My students know this, so I'm not even tripping. But it is frozen. There we go. Sendy Tapia. Sendy, let me count the ways. I'm going to write you a love letter. Just kidding. Sendy does a lot of work alongside me, so she has had to deal with me quite a bit. Y'all know that life. All right. But are you ready? It's going to be awkward. I'm going to read your whole bio. Sendy Tapia is a mesmerizing daydreamer in the world of storytelling, weaving narratives that inspire and uplift. With over 15 years of experience as a wordsmith, she has honed her craft to amplify voices that often go unheard. Born into a family of seasonal farm workers, Sendy's journey from the fields to becoming a first-generation college graduate from this particular university, San Jose State, go Spartans, is a testament to resilience, ambition, and the power of education. Her work is rooted in a deep commitment to bridging opportunities for her community, ensuring that others can also transform their daydreams into reality through her storytelling, advocacy, and mentorship, and within her role as a managing editor of EASTSIDE magazine, my favorite place to torture her. Sendy empowers others to embrace their own narratives and carve out spaces where they belong and where they too can become published voices. Sendy, you ready? It's good. This is why I love her. We're both crybabies.
I don't have a choice if I'm ready. I gotta go. All right, so big disclaimer. I am a Chiona, and it's a very full circle for me right now, starting from nowhere to being here, graduating, and continuing my work in the fall as a graduate student in Chicanx studies. So please be patient as my voice shakes. I hope these tears also cleanse your soul. Thank you for being here, and it's part of the healing. So my piece is called El peso de las letras y los cargos, which is the weight of letters and everything you gotta carry with you. First generation graduate, grassroots activist, hija de migrantes, storyteller for life. I was raised in a small country town, deep within the 45th parallel of Eastern Oregon's Blue Mountains. For 16 years, I only knew of my heritage from what my parents passed down to me through their life lessons, work ethic, and the far in between glimpses of Mexico living. Outside my home, I was one of 2 to 3 students out of 100 kids in my high school who spoke Spanish, getting pulled from class to test my ESL skills and overlooked when it came to signing up for Spanish class, porque yo ya hablaba español, así como se justificaba un sobresaliente fácil. Or in other words, why would you give the Spanish-speaking girl an easy A in Spanish class? Code switching, imposter syndrome, discrimination, chicanismo, and cultural assimilation were terms and intersections too abstract for me to understand how they directly impacted my childhood and identity. That doesn't happen to me. I've known her since kindergarten. I don't get bullied. I just have different interests. I don't know why I have to take these tests and not my classmates. Every summer, like clockwork, los campos se abrían for cherry orchards coating the agriculturally rich valleys. Once the unceded territories of the Nez Perce, Umatilla, Walla Walla, and Cayuse tribes. 40 years of agricultural labor shared between mis padres in Michoacan and I, a product of their sacrifices, became absorbed into the meaning of trabajando en el campo, helping translate, assisting in managing buckets picked and to whom to credit, cleaning the temporary housing shacks for the migrant workers y más. The days were long, hot, occasionally humid. While my peers went on vacations and visited family, the days started in la madrugada beside my parents for long hours, cherishing the few family members that would migrate with the crowd. Those summers would spend speaking Spanish from sunrise to sunset with my limited campo vocabulary until school began, and I would naturally code switch into my Anglo passing personality again. The physical labor of workers, elders, and young adults stretched across 169 acres of cherry orchards. The origin of blood, sweat, and skills, because the faster you worked, the more money you plucked out of the cherry trees. Every summer day, I was lectured about the value of education. Every summer day, I witnessed the results of lack of education, knowledge, and resources. By the time I was 14, I had walked every row of the orchard and grew to recognize the trees when they were ripe or when they still needed heat to turn sugar sweet. Although the fresh morning air would only remind me of how much I hate, and I still hate, waking up early and carrying a 3-legged ladder that dug uncomfortably into my shoulder when filling or finding my assigned trees, it was the motivation la gente needed to work as hard as they could before the sun peaked above the mountains and brought forth its scorching summer heat. I distinctly remember plugging in my headphones and disassociating from the endless depths to the endless depths of my imagination until I felt the deep rumblings of tractors that passed in between rows with swampers swinging buckets of cherries and dumping them into the plastic bins, weighed and shipped to not-so-local markets. Others were not so fortunate to have technology like la gringa que era, pero no sabía. Many sang from their soul under the trees and along battery-operated radios that hung off the trees, told jokes, hooted and hollered to make their cherry-picking neighbors and my parents laugh. At that time, I read almost every day, and those stories filled me with inspiration. I began writing my own stories. As I rode the wave of middle school and high school, storytelling was there for me, shaping my thoughts and giving me a voice when my throat was a ball of nerves and anxiety. It gave me what I needed to articulate in the multitude of language. What I never learned in school about being una hija de migrantes, I learned through the stories of the migrant workers that passed through my small cherry town. How they crossed the border in the middle of the desert heat. What motivated them to come to what motivated them to continue their efforts in leaving their home behind, and how long it had been since they last saw their relatives or their own parents. El peso de mi raza sobre mis hombros, porque nací en este lado de la frontera. El privilegio ganado por los sacrificios de mis padres. I remember a man aged by the harshness of the sun beaming down on his face, and although his name is vague to me, his story of leaving his widowed mother behind in his teenage years to work in the United States stayed with me. He would later have enough saved up to return to Mexico in the similar conditions he went through to cross in the first place, a través del calor del desierto, only to find out that his mother had passed away months after his initial departure. It was in those raw moments of sharing that I never fully grasped the entire reasoning why my own parents would be so driven to risk getting caught crossing the border illegally, risk their own life in the desert with limited water and food to fill their bellies. Seeing the migrant workers pile their families into a van with as much clothing and dishware as they could fit, it was a lifestyle that I could never picture for myself, but one that occurred out of necessity, a need for survival, for the betterment of life, el sueño americano. Pero aquí estoy, con la pluma en la mano y el cargo sobre mis hombros. And the rest you'll have to read.
Sandy, thank you so much for being a twin spirit Chiona. I think we're in a time where the world is calling on us to remember and to feel, and the news lines keep trying to desensitize us. And so to cry sacred tears of woman rising is a fitting constellation point in this anthology. So, and I grew up with the no llores upbringing, and I think I had to find my tears as a grown señora. So I'm thankful when folks from that slightly younger generation model something different for us and remind us to feel. So as we gather ourselves and loosen that knot in our throats, because I think that's what storytelling is about también, being able to have these things live collectively so that we can all relate to our humanity and understand the human elements of these things that the headlines keep trying to strip the human story from, is that we are here and we resist and we persist and we feel and we should be feeling. So thank you for being a Chiona. Next up, we have Laura DíAZ Tovar. Oh, the clicker is working now. Laura DíAZ Tovar is a poet, mixed media visual artist, creative educator, and community worker born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, living on occupied Ohlone land in San Jose, California. Y'all notice how multifaceted everybody on this panel is. To write is to live. And so they're bringing in so much experience and they're telling stories in all these other spaces. So it is very much an honor to be among you and to be in this room with your stories. Laura has created and implemented trauma-informed spaces and organized around the issues of gender-based violence, immigration, public health, workers' rights, and housing. As co-founder of Colibri Collective, a collective of women of the global majority, she creates poetry and art workshops, healing circles, community-based educational spaces, and a wellness and healing-centered podcast called Conexiones Mágicas. Her poetry and art have appeared in Journal X, La Libreta Women in Creative Rebellion Poetry Journal, La Raíz Magazine, and the forthcoming or already arrived, my bad, very much here, manifested for reals, 3-dimensional form, buy it, buy 5. Somos Xicanas anthology. Laura, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm also a Chiona, so try not to chia too much, but wanted to thank everybody on the panel in different ways. Everybody's contributed to all the voices here. My first poem ever published was in La Raíz magazine, so thank you to Elizabeth, and thank you to Brenda, and of course Rosanna is always out there hustling for everybody and promoting everybody, so feels good to be part of the circle. I'll start with a poem that's in the anthology, and then I'll read 2 short poems. One that I completed a couple years ago, and then a new one that I found from about 10 years ago that I recently updated. This one's called I Am the Writer. I am the writer, but I have no words. Today is a day for grounding myself, my thoughts, my damaged pieces, colonized pieces of turquoise, left in mi sepulcro vacío, sprinkled like seeds across dirt fields, sinking into the earth's exhale when the great dying begins, only to be discovered by hands seeking to erase my life.
Long after I've left this place, remember the mangled pieces. Today is the day to look at calendars and count the years it takes for someone else's cells, coded ancient DNA, to be completely expunged from me, from us as a people. I am the writer, but I couldn't find the word for no. I kept inviting the sad inside to hold my hand, witness the depths of scarred dreams and broken bones. I kneel before the altar I created in my soul in the darkness of the night. Slowly, I begin to excavate healing words from the quiet and wounded chambers of my decaying heart. The words remind me that I am café con leche, pink conchas y virotes con frijoles, de tortas pero no ahogadas. I am the jazz de Miles and Coltrane, son jarocho de los blues de Billie Holiday, and rap, the intricate beats. Deep, there's a Tupac to Kendrick, de mariachi en la plaza y los toros en carnaval, where my tío Charlie would buy us all botana and cervecitas, even if we weren't old enough. I never liked the taste of beer, pero those memories of all of us together are flowing together now into sentences. I remember I am Agustin Lara, whispered late at night. I am Sade, purple like Prince, y serenatas en mi ventana under lucid moons. I am Guadalajara, de la tierra mojada, y de San José de Muwekma Oloni. I am de Rio Medellín, Outland de Navarro, donde nació el tío Carlos Santana, de South 7th Street, with its big backyard full of corn and chiles, gallinas, and stray gatitos. I'm from Martha and Reed Streets in the heart of downtown San Ho. I am liberation like a roar of thunder in the murmurs at sunset and every brown pajarito at sunrise holding the promise of freedom. Because sometimes those sounds are all the music we need to keep going. And I remember that what words we've had to repeat to exhaustion, that it's not about the bad apples when death comes disguised as Blue Lives Matter, that it is easier to ignore the roots of that tree than the filth it was planted in, that it's not the apples that cause destruction of land and of brown and black bodies, but it's the farmer seeped in colonial shit, poisoning water and air, and how we love and how we heal, selling crates of rotten fruit as retribution for demanding we be free. So we dig deep into the earth and find that we're connected by our roots, like the secret language of trees, but with words. I hear them in the wind, and in a flash, the words come to me again like lightning, filling me with power and light. Arriving at night, I use them to write poems across my heart, all of our hearts. I became the voracious witness. I am the writer. It's a little wordy. I'm also very wordy. Let me read, this one's a shorter one. This one I wrote in a workshop with Lorna Di Cervantes. The title of the workshop was called Ode to an Enchilada. And I'm like, what is this? What are we doing? So I took it as, you know, an enchilada, a real enchilada, but then there's a twist. So this is an ode to an enchilada. From the backyards, I pulled one last dandelion from in between sidewalk cracks under summer's sun bath. I saw my mommy in the kitchen moving back and forth in front of the window. Concealed by her handmade curtains made with pedacitos de la tela from La Newberry on Story and Key at Tropicana, she'd always pick the happiest colors, yellow and orange. I could tell que andaba enchilada. I could tell by the way the smell of the pasilla joined the breeze and reached my nose, made me sneeze 3 times. Mommy was making enchiladas con ganas this time. She must be mad at my apa again. She always made them the same, the only ones I like. What sadness was she trying to blend in the molcajete? That humble corn tortilla never stood a chance. The pasilla paste slathered on both sides, chili dipped, watered down by tears, little tubes crying out to be let into the sizzling hot pan. I hear Mommy call out to me, ven a comer, knowing I will taste her melancholy in the dish. The mountain of enchiladas lands on the table like a suppressed memory. Mommy always made a pyramid of them. La flauta enchilada, she would say. Steam rose from the top ones, cotija and queso fresco tumbled out of the others. The thick red paste became one with the tortillas, as if maíz was born crimson. My papi refused to eat that night. He knew the power of her enchiladas. But I sat there and let myself be taken to another galaxy, those enchiladas, simple and unassuming, basic and traditional, yet with the power to resist your chingaderas. This is an ode to la enchilada, mi mamá. This is the last one. Ode to the desert, unconditional. When did your face grow those lines like deep desert cracks etched by sun's whispered secrets so delicately about above your brow? When did your soft brown eyes begin to pierce with heated anger through me, embers flickering beneath your lashes? Your hand never needed to touch my skin for the sting to burn. I saw the air shimmer before me, a belt shadow curling like a serpent. Belt buckles rattled when the closet doors swung open. I heard you cry once when your father died and you forgave him, even though his fists reached your tender frame so many times, so long ago. His ghost still lingers in the hallway, muttering apologies that dissolve before they reach your ears. No one ever held you close, told you that they loved you. And even though the harsh desert of your tired, weathered face, I see the wind carry through your sorrows away, turning it into golden dust that dances in the air. I can see your brown eyes smiling like a riverbed finally touched by rain. I love you, Apa, unconditionally. Thank you.
I always forget when I'm moderating. I'm like, I need a second to breathe with some of these because there's so the power of poetry is that it's storytelling in general, right? Doesn't matter if it's an essay. I know some of y'all just write them by force, so you think they don't matter, but they do. They matter to the reader. We're able to connect with them. We're able to create our own stories layered onto it, and so we're kind of braiding ourselves together through storytelling. I'm gonna save you for last, girl, cause you're the queen right now. I can't wait. I'm too excited to introduce this one right here, but I gotta get through me first. There's a big old introduction right there, but most of you in the room are in my class, so you gotta suffer with this for 16 weeks. You already know I teach here sometimes for now. But outside of here, I love chisme. That's just a fact. And I love telling stories, and I love reading stories, and I love hearing stories, and I love enabling stories. And yes, I'm an educator, I'm an artist, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, a cabrona too. And for me, you know, when I'm doing things like co-founding ASIDE magazine, I'm always thinking of what comes next, right? And so for you all in class, it's not about doing the time in that concrete set of walls over there. It's about what comes next. And so for me, poetry also anchors me back in, well, who are we and where did we come from and who do we carry? And so I was really excited to have two pieces in here. And one of them is kind of like my birth origin story, if you will. And I keep putting my mom on blast because she'd be coming to all my events like she's not tired. And I'm named after her. And that's a whole poem in itself, right? But this one, I was like, you know what? Let me talk about my origin story. And it's called En Movimiento. You can find it on page 23 when you buy the book. What? And it goes like this. I was born of resistance, a terremoto cracking concrete, cabrona, calzonuda y rezongona, at the intersections of disappointment and possibility, del campo in the valley of heart's delight, in an orchard on land tended to by brown bodies as they shared stories of their travels, picking at their calluses while laughing in the sun. I was born of resistance, a terremoto cracking concrete, buried under a cemented maze, mixed by those same calloused hands, under the direction of those that attempted to sever my ombligo from las tres hermanas, even though I was the firstborn of 9, choking out the maíz, the frijol, the calabaza. I was born of resistance, a terremoto cracking concrete, rumblings of disruptions, murmured histories, whispered secrets, swallowed tears, hazy realities, vivid dreams, and prayers held in front yard nichos dedicated to female saints. I was born of resistance, a terremoto cracking concrete, hungry with the curiosity for these stories, with a longing to dig into the dirt and know more. O sea, I was born calzonuda y chismosa, so there's that. This one, some poems take a long time to write, and they, the end result, you're like, what? It was like half a page. What happened? I was like months in agony. And some poems just kind of come to you on the fly. And this one came to me as I was working on an art piece for an exhibit, and trying to figure out how to add color to my favorite black and white versions of really simple stylized drawings that I do of my daughters. And I try to capture them in those moments because they're all taller than me now. And a lot of times they kind of have a soundtrack. So this one's called Rascuache Liberation Love Letters. Si vieras, yo como te recuerdo. Past a moment or a song, it's about how we belong in a legacy of cultura where art is our song, where Rascuache has value. And it's not just the supposed tasteless style of the underdog, more like the wisdom and the fierce sensibility of a Quetzalcoatl legacy, where knowledge lives on inside of me. In spite of all the wisdom stripped from a body of we, la gente decente, herederas of círculos, where the hummingbird flies, creators and artists whose spirit never dies, con zafos, red-handed, danzantes, we rise. And two, we write in our own like music and lyricality. And this is the last one. On paper, it's long, but watch, it's gonna go by super fast because I talk fast. This one's out of my book, Braided Unbelonging. You catch it in the back también. And in class, we've been talking about I Am Joaquin. Y'all know I'd be triggered by that poem, so I wrote a clapback. Although I respect the poem, I can also critique the poem. Although I respect the struggle, I can also critique how women were marginalized within the telling of that history and the struggle. So this is me getting my revenge. Rosie's revenge. And then subtext, con respeto, Don Corky González. Que en paz descanse. Mis respetos, Don Corky González, to boot. I've got poems in my repertoire and boxing gloves too. And while we've intergenerationally centered, glorified, and canonized El Mijo Joaquin, lost in a world of confusion, I constantly find myself battling a landscape of erasure and collusion. Forced into margins, footnotes, and ibids, called so many names because we've never been silent. See, there's clarity in that gap. It's a hole in the fabric where we keep snagging at the facade like a tenacious rabbit maverick. Chronically gaslit, braided and suited, released the mantilla of the suffering woman, polished long lost armas, forcibly removed, dug hands in the dirt, excavated what was buried. Reclaimed my copili while barefoot like the raramuri, perfected my aim cause we never been tame. Convinced us our ego hungered for fame, preyed on and violated toward humbly silent, weaponized prayers, entangled affairs, compartmentalized saints and sinners displayed for the stairs, labeled vendidas. While you pay for the chairs, tokens and bounty for profits and winners where all the world's a stage and everyone loses. More than profits, it's life, no bruises, just muses. And sanctified wombs, overregulated ovaries, disemboweled and tomb declared sacred. Victims? Insane? Containers and targets of unnecessary hate. Despite all that spite, we find ways to bloom. We're warriors, remembered, encoded heirlooms. Somos gente, complex, perfect and flawed, dismembered, embodied, at times broken and clawed. Abrasively ravenous, simultaneously, selfishly, selflessly, unequivocally broad. Concomitantly, imperfectly, indisputably, we? Listen, we'll tell you who we be. Y con eso, finally. I'm so excited you made it. And she's going to make it to both. I thought she was just going to make it for the evening because she's busy these days and all days. You'll find her everywhere. Everywhere. And I love it so much. Aide Medina, a pushcart prize nominated poet. I'm so excited I can't even read. Award-winning spoken word artist and playwright, the author of 31 Hummingbird, a suite of poems,
Editorial Chicanx, the publisher, and segmented bodies, Prickly Pear Press. Her poetry and prose have been featured in many publications, including Fresno State's Club, Austral Literary Magazine, Chicano Writers and Artists Association Journal, La Bloga, Poets Responding, Split This Rock, and Nueva York Poetry Review, among many, many others, as well as in compositions for the 559 Mural Project and Fresno Grand Opera's Opera Remix. Also, y'all, she is the 7th poet laureate of Fresno. Hey, échale.
Este está bien, sí. Yeah, this is pretty good. That way I don't have to hold it. Sometimes I have to hold my heart. And right now I'm having to hold my lungs. Because if you can hear me, ya saben, I can hear it to everybody. Estamos todos iguales. So ahí les va. Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction. Ay, Dios mío. It's not. Okay. It's better not to look back sometimes. All right. So I have 3 poems in this book, and I'm very proud to be sitting next to our publisher. Oh my God, and to be with all of you. Elizabeth was a longtime friend. Rosanna, I'm just starting to get to know, but I've been a long time fan of San Jose. I always identify everywhere I go, but what I've eaten there. And what my people have picked there. So we would come here for cherries, obviously, right? And we would trade lechugas for cherries because that's how it went down. If you're from Salinas, we got lechugas. We bring it over here to the primos and we'd get cherries. So that's how we did it. So trading, yes. Heck, Van. Forward. Who are we running to meet? Family, coyotes, or heavily armed men? Tomorrow? Behind barbed wire, in front of barbed wire, when people are prey, when catch and release, when gasping, smiling sportsmen, fish too small to keep, woman, tired eyes, tired body, tired mind, gasping, swims through mountains, deserts, falls, into ravines, leaving child in thorny patch of cacti. Life, judged too small for crevices to catch. Men, we forget our men turn themselves in, turn wives in, turn daughters in, turn sons and fathers in, to one group of soldiers over another, running from guns to guns, running through lands and kin who should know us, that know them, that know you. We are one body to catch and release, point weapons at shadows, running forward to be returned. Thank you. I was lucky. Yo no soy organizada para nada. I'm not. So some wonderful sister in the group, and I don't even know where, gave me tabs at one of the readings, and he was like, please, let me just fix you here. And now I'm like, que no se cayeron? No, okay, good. So ahí les va. So I'm from Fresno, and yeah, it gets really hot sometimes in the summertime. And we've had several droughts, and I've lived through several droughts. I feel like as a kid, droughts and flood years. So water and the cycles of water, they make me write. I'm called to write about them. Delta drought. Orange yellow moon, over the valley, over me, I left the sun choking on smoke. Don't fight the tears. It is a privilege to have sadness to spend. To make acid rain, there must be ash and water. To love, there must be ash and water. There is a drought. Reservoir dried up. The ground clasps all its water to the center of the lake bed. Drive blind, numb,
pull the car over on the curve of the mountain, slide down into the reservoir bed to reach the edge of the water. I am tired this morning, aware of every single breath as it comes, as it goes. One more day, soon enough, for rain, for news that you are well, sipping beer with pretty strangers. I cannot breathe in this fire haze, in this grief haze, in this hate haze. But we do. No, I cannot breathe. I cannot breathe porque tengo tos now. Ay, Dios mío. This last one, I'm so lucky that I had 3 poems in the anthology, and I'm really glad about this one because I think that it is kind of like our, I don't know, I feel like a mandate. Like we need to write about the people that don't get written about, that don't get spoken about. And everybody here, if I say Frida Kahlo, knows who I'm talking about, right? And Frida, pobrecita, it's not her damn fault that we've exploited the shit out of her. Okay, it's not her fault. She's been so exploited. We sell everything with her image on this side of the border, right? But Frida came from an academy of amazing women. She had sisters. She had a whole circle of women that she learned to paint with, to express with, to be an artist with. And so this is one of them because I think we need to keep all of these women alive in our thoughts so we can live the art and be the art. And this is an ode for Aurora Reyes Flores. We will resurrect all our sisters, call their names out of the wilderness, open the doors of Mictlan, city of the dead, pull sinews, spirit, and legacy through the walls of old buildings thick with paint. We will build their cathedrals on the unfinished roads of an unfinished revolution, graffiti sidewalks, smash windows, entice the angel of revolution to turn into a wailing angel, announcing angel. Let the city hear us. We will only leave the murals untouched. Imprints of soul, painted desert landscapes, windows into the blood. Saguaros haunt us. From Chihuahua to Tenochtitlan, the first encounter. All of my goddesses live in Mexico City in the underworld beneath the stone of Coyoshacui and the Christian churches. The weight of the churches. We make our sisters whole, speaking their names. We will finish the revolution they were born of. Women of war, Aurora Reyes, mother of murals. Her name invokes royalty, and the rising of the sun makes you inheritors of her dawn. Feminism, her own, the one she painted, a call to fight for the marginalized with her paintbrush, life force, and cactus woman ways, brought forth a battalion of artists. The great revolutionary generals never meant to liberate us from kitchen fires, laundry lines, and the marriage bed. So she lifted herself out of a mule cart to finish the job. Liberation seeped into Aurora's belly and invoked a voracious appetite for women's rights, for the poor. We have not finished the movement quickened in her vision. Aurora Reyes, poet, painter, mounted battles on the walls, gave rural town teachers a war cry in reds, browns, and stucco. The naked woman stepped out of the shelter of the conch. Brave new world, Aurora Reyes, naked in paint, dressed Frida as death and Concha as the eternal muñeca. Aurora Reyes, we say your name. Sirena Coronada, transform us into mermaids. Embroider our tongues into the poems of human landscapes. First, muralist mother, we found you in a collection of wild women, savage poets, sculptors, and painters,
found you and marveled at breasts exposed, bare bodies weaponized by the sisterhood of 100 years. Resurrection, que viva Aurora Reyes Flores, no final death for the artist or her art. Okay. That
Dale, what a poet laureate sounds like. And we'll actually be joined by another poet laureate this evening from Watsonville también. So, skilled lineup. And we have panel discussion on the flyer, but I know students are going to have to get going soon. So I'm going to kind of remix the program and just give you all a opt-in with your Q&A, because you might come up with questions that I had come up with already. And I'm like, oh, it's better when it comes from you. You word them differently. So I want to give the room a chance to ask any questions, and anything is fair game. I mean, if we're not comfortable, we won't answer. But as you can see, we're a very transparent bunch. So be advised. But opening questions up to the floor. Yeah.
I'm very impressed with this panel, and very impressed with all of you. I would like to know if you are thinking about producing any kind of a film where you all get together and do something culturally and unique to your locations.
Yeah. Documentaries have been on my mind, and I'm a multifaceted mitotera. And so the trouble is also finding the resources or the right partnerships or the right mujeres already doing that kind of work who would echar la cooperacha into the queue. So I feel like your question is very affirming toward that vision. And I think, things are contagious. So I'm curious, like I would think that people have had similar parallel reflections también.
There's definitely been a request and a call for documenting our voices in documentary form, in film, and also audio, like audiobooks, because everyone, at least in California, we live in our cars, right? So the answer is yes. And to echo Rosanna, some of our biggest challenges, especially as a micro press, are resources. We're 100% community funded. These projects move forward because our community calls us out and puts money behind these projects to make it happen. But that is a dream on our heart for sure, to make that come to life. I can see us as Sundance.
I want to make a personal comment to Brenda VACA, and that is, it's so wonderful to see you, number one. And I've always been very impressed with you. You know that. And that I know that you are a networking person like crazy. And I know that you know a lot of people. So I'm just going to leave it there.
We'll bring it out.
Okay.
Thank you, Sonia. I take your brother.
Any other questions in the room? We got one in the front over here.
Well, it's really it's been really nice to hear everybody's poems, and I'm really glad we made it out here for this. My question was, I guess, how was the process of either reaching out to all these amazing authors, or how did the authors themselves, like the poets, hear about this project? I'm just kind of curious how this book kind of got started.
The project was started, a call went out to help me remember, like maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2015. It's been a while. The project was living with another press at the time. Lou Schweg, our editor, was a person that really envisioned this, had it on her heart to do this for decades, because it had been so long since we had an all Xicana anthology, right? Like Gloria and Zaldua, like decades. So I remember seeing a post on Instagram. I had already been stalking Luce and all the projects that she works on as an amazing editor and writer in her own right. And so I remember submitting, and then, every time something was received and accepted, she would post it. She would show love online. And then I think it just trickled out from there. But I know she slipped into people's DMs. I know she called folks up. I know she called folks out. And I remember when it finally did come to the press, come to Riot of Roses, seeing other big names follow suit. It was just so exciting to see like the snowball effect. But I think she and her editorial team, Scott Russell Duncan, Jenny Grisari, they all did a fantastic job of reaching out, you know, to a lot of us. And then we would reshare. I reshared like crazy and was like, hey, yo, this is happening. It's important.
With sending to each other. Yeah.
That's the thing, right? The Chicana way is a community-driven, oriented way for sure, collective caretaking. But I remember just being like, well, I'm not sure what this is going to turn into, but here you go. And I sent in my submissions and I was like, by that point, I had already learned the lesson that things that I thought were maybe basura were not, because like our books are valued by other people. And sometimes it takes that affirmation for us to boldly go for these other opportunities. But then we saw those same share outs and I was like, oh, cool, that's my face. I'm accepted. Oh my God. Oh, Sendy, you're got accepted too. Oh my God, there's Laura. Oh my God, there's Elizabeth. And then that's how it was. And then it started getting like, oh my God. Oh my Oyoshauki. Because then you had, you know, you see Irene Blea, you see Ada Limon or Ada Limon, you see the face of Ana Castillo, Sandra Cisneros, and you're like, excuse me? And so the scale and the enormity of it, right, is something that I feel like came after. And it's a constant reminder that doesn't matter if it's your first time publishing at this level or you've been doing this for years and influenced some of us who wrote in here, right, that those voices are having a conversation with each other. And now they're having a conversation with you as the reader and the listener. Yeah.
We have a question online.
And then we see this person over here next.
So this is from Cassandra. Will there be signed copies available to buy outside of this event?
Great question. Yeah, I know. Every time that we go and do an event, I've been trying to get all of my sisters to sign my book. And then if you ever come to Fresno, all of the Chicanas, when you come to Fresno, go to Judging by the Cover, because that's our community. Like, okay, I know a lot of you guys, you're spoiled. You have like lots of bookstores and lots of like, we have one, you know, one that caters a lot to adult authors and to people of color in the community. And that's Judging by the Cover. And so if you all come by Fresno, sign the book. So if you go, but Cassandra, if you go to Fresno, go to Judging by the Cover and you'll find our book in stock always there. And if some of these ladies can go by and sign, it should be like an Easter egg hunt, no? Yeah. O sea, you walk into a bookstore and you're like, ¿estará firmado? You know, like, if I've gone into the bookstore, I'm signing.
Yes.
I'm not even going to ask permission. I'm not going to ask permission. So now we're just going to do guerrilla signing, like, wherever I go. Right.
And then we had a question over here in the Branson. Oh, go ahead.
If you want to buy it today, there are copies. I mean, I think priority are people that are physically here, but I also have what are they called? Book plates. So I can have folks sign them that are present today. I'm going back to LA on Saturday. There's more writers down there, so you'll at least have a good start. But it is like an Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, even for us.
If you can get a hold of Ada Limon for us, like, let us know. To sign all these copies.
Yes.
Thank you for the question.
Yes, actually, and I listen to your poems and I think about the storytelling, right? So, you know, it sounds like you telling your own story using very strong and powerful and sometimes touching hard. So I wonder, what is this about Somos Xicanas? What is the origin and where's your going?
Do you want to chime in? No pressure.
Does this work?
Yes.
So what is it about Somos Xicanas? Can I hold your book? I need a prop. Well, I think, to me, like this anthology, some of the work published in it is like showing like what Chicanas are, what we say we are, our perspective on Chicanas, right? And it's for us, like for people that are Chicanas, for our communities, for everybody that wants to learn about Chicanas or just, you know, like, I guess immerse themselves in like Chicanismo, maybe. But what I think comes of that is a lot of conversations, like with all kind of like good art and writing, right? Conversations about like maybe you share something that is published in the anthology, and maybe you disagree, or maybe you ask a friend that's Chicana, or you make a new friend that's Chicana and say like, oh, I read this book and I heard, like, or I read about this, and like opening opportunities for people to talk about what are Chicanas, what is our history, especially what is our history. I also attended San Jose State, and it was actually here that I learned a lot more about my people's history. Um, like in public schools, it always seems like we just came out of nowhere. Like I attended felt like looking back, it's a very segregated school. There may be like, I don't know, like 5 specifically Mexican students in classes that were all white students, like in every classroom, small school, and never saw like people of any other like cultures, ethnicities. This was in Petaluma, by the way, decades ago. But yeah, like even people now, like I've gone to like try to represent with my art. I'm also a visual artist, and sometimes like I go I went to a career fair at a high school here in the area, and so I mentioned something about being Chicana, and they say, what's a Chicana? And then so I have to try to like share at least my perspective on it, like might have like a different perspective of what we consider Chicana. I told them like it's not necessarily Mexican, but it started from the word like came out of a word for Mexicans, like a pejorative term. Like we're taking it back. It's different from saying like a Mexican or Mexican American, because it comes with like awareness of our indigenous heritage, like that we come from people that are native to this continent, regardless of colonial borders, and just awareness of like the politics that have shaped the conditions of our communities, like poverty, the whole thing with papers, like that's all things that we experience due to a history of what has been like either like imposed on our culture, like languages, like first Spanish and then English were like forced on our peoples. Now so, some of us, that's all we speak, or maybe we just speak English. And yeah, like conditions like impoverishment, not that we're all poor, because we're definitely not, but like that is something that's like a big deal, because it's been something that's been like systematically caused towards our people. So yeah, it opens up conversations. Well, thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Think it's just also a reminder that you don't have to be Chicana to relate and connect to the poetry, right? It humanizes us for each other.
One more question for the team. Do you all have like a marketing strategy where you reach out to the different Latina organizations? And excuse me if the word Latina or Latino offends anybody. I consider myself a Chicana, so apologies. But there are a lot of different organizations all up and down Santa Clara County, San Mateo, you name it. There are organizations. Do you have like a marketing effort to number one, know who these people are and maybe market to them? Is there a plan there?
The marketing strategy that we've been using has been very grassroots, inspired by the organization Illuminative in particular. So it's been very grassroots. And at some point right before publication, I think it was like November, everyone was invited to a Zoom conversation to activate our networks. We're not in a place as a publishing house to hire a big marketing team, right? To be able to just end up on the Tamron Hall show or the Oprah Book Club. So it was all about activating. Yet, correct. To activate our, like, who do we know? Heidi did an amazing job. She is the person on the ground who got us into the first bookstore. She already mentioned Judging by the Cover. They've been like just our number one fan, I think. They're on the Somos Xicanas website. So we've really been relying on our community as collaborators to reach out to the communities that they know. Most of the events we've hosted have been organized by our contributors. The way I see it is that our writers, our contributors, are also distributors of this good medicine. Because that's how we roll as Chicanas, right? It's like just at the grassroots level, who do we know reaching out? And it's been a struggle because we're up against a really loud counter narrative, right? So, but we're persistent. That much I know is we as Chicanas, we're very persistent, and we're here and we're getting into their library systems. We are making contact with other like organizations that aren't necessarily like literary organizations. But should you know, and I know you do, Sonia, have connections, then we will happily activate and appreciate those networks. So we will work with you. All to say is if you have other organizations, community groups, book clubs, contacts to the media, we were really relying on our community to champion this anthology.
My last sort of short question. Okay, I know Rosanna's looking at me like, oh yay. I'm on a board, SourceWise, and for senior citizens. There's a lot of attention now given to senior citizens in the Latino community. I'm on that board. Anything I can do for y'all, I'm there for you. Okay. I'm also on a team for AARP. I was just in a meeting with them before I came here. That's why I'm late. But they're always anything for senior citizens. That's a whole community that loves you. Okay. You're the mijas. Okay. Thank you, Sonia. Okay.
Thank you. And I think this is kind of gets us to this, but I see your hand. We won't cut you off. We'll answer. The students who had a run have already run, so I'm not tripping if nobody else is tripping. But just kind of bringing our attention to our co-sponsors, and I don't have my cheat notes open in front of me anymore, but I think that was also why I was intentional about in all of my mitotes to make sure that La Raza Historical Society also co-sponsored, because when you have one of these organizations locally that is invested in our history and in making sure that we activate and preserve that historical legacy, this is a part of that, right? And we want to be ahead of it rather than in 20 years and 30 years when they're digging it up and maybe or maybe not. But I think Brenda brings up a good point about the value of grassroots comadrazgo, and that's that we are living in hostile times. So there were folks that I reached out to and I was like, look, you don't even got to give us anything. You just slap your damn logo on the thing, like send it out to your marketing team. And some of them politely declined, but some of them also just didn't answer. And so I think people are still nervous when they see Chicanas, and more so Chicanas with an X. No, pues que vienen con puro desmadre. So there's also some weird residual, I don't want to call it stigma because it's not quite that. And poets are precise with our words. And so there is definitely a reluctance even from Raza in our own communities to use the term Chicano with a CH. And so there is a lot of healing that I think this book offers that through the strategy that Brenda described is very necessary during this time. And so we're dreaming big, but we're also dreaming like good medicine, right? Not a virus, but an antidote. And sometimes it takes a while for people to get with the damn vaccine. So here we are.
Thank you. That's what I was going to say. Thank you. I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for the medicina that you all brought. I think it's good medicine to hear all of your stories. And it's also inspirational, right? For all of us to continue, and for me to continue to write and get that going and keep going. So I just want to say thank you for all your beautiful medicine that you brought to all of us. Much needed. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sorry if my phrasing is a little weird. What message do you have for the younger generation in terms of how do we speak out against like everything that's going on in our world right now? Because everything's a little bit crazy, especially with the whole like immigration stuff going on, and there's a lot of fear within us. So what would you recommend for us to do in order to speak out?
I think organize, community organizing, right? It's work you can't do by yourself. And I found that out when I went here to San Jose State, and I was part of trying to get rid of the president of the university at the time. And we thought three of us could do that, and we couldn't, right? And so learning the basics of community organizing, how to do direct action work in community peacefully and whatever by any means, right? At times, but I think surrounding yourselves with people in community that align with your values and always looking at the work that people are always going to criticize you, right? People are going to call you protesters. People are going to call you troublemakers. They're going to call you all the names in the book. But if you have your community behind you, like those are just words, right? And I learned that through connecting myself with people in this community, some that are in the audience, organizations like Debug, organizations like Land Trusts, organizations that do the work with domestic violence work, right? That they're doing the work from the heart, right? Community organizing is not about ego, and it's not about who's at the front of the room and who's got the microphone. It's about who's in the room with you, right? And the work of community organizing is about protecting. It's not about protesting. So if we remember that it comes from the heart, that we're doing this to protect our community, whether it's housing and, people coming in to steal land, people coming in to steal people coming in to steal our words, you need to surround yourselves with people that align with your values, right? And then find ways together to fight that through love.
To add on to that as well, there is security and obscurity. So if you take on a pen name, there's no shame in that. Please protect yourself, protect your friends, protect the people around you, because unfortunately we are under attack right now. If you're inclined, so write. You don't have to write every day. Little goes a long way, but you have to write yourself into the books. Whether you get yourself published, whether you're on a podcast, whether you're making social media reels, maybe not under the pen name, or you can, AI that, but nonetheless, it's producing your thoughts, getting it on paper, so that way, not only are you recording the moment in history, but you're also building on top of that your reflections, your experiences, your parents' experiences, your friends and neighbors' experiences. That way, at the end of the day, whatever happens, if they try to burn down the books, you have a point of reference to be like, you know what? They did this and they did this. I wrote it down. That is tangible proof, but also it lets you build off of any arguments, any studies, any references. I think it's very important to be civically engaged, and it doesn't just it doesn't stop at voting, whether it's being part of committees or joining the local library committee. Like, listen, you don't always have to speak up, but listen and take that into consideration as well. I'm a really big fan, I'm a journalist, but I'm a really big fan for finding different sources of news that aren't just your dominant medias, public media, whether it's NPR, PBS, or even go beyond that, go global. Spain is very progressive at the moment, so you can look at that. You can look at Japanese media, you can look at Europe media, you can look at Latino Americana media, just to know how is the world viewing the United States right now. How are they reacting? What are they preparing for? But also to better ground yourself in the periphery of propaganda that we're going through.
I also wanted to add, so 3 things, I'll try to keep them short. So your question reminded me of hearing a mujer speak. It was a community meeting. I don't know her name, but the way she described like dealing with the fear was that, our communities have been dealing with fear, for their whole lives and, for throughout history, and that it's like it's not something new, and sometimes it's worse, but that part of it is like being ready to kind of like observing and being ready to, she's also like, she said she was an MMA fighter, and she said like to, like to see like these first things that they're doing as like the first punches, and she said that she sees it as an opportunity to like, see how they hit and be ready to fight back. And another thing was about so it was set up what Laura said about organizing. Like I used to hear all this like organize and organize and like what is that? But I guess like we all here and probably in the room maybe have done this in some form, like whether within your families or communities, like looking out for yourself, connecting with people and people that would have your back or at least tell your story. Like if something happens, like there's like limited things we can do. People have had their families, like people from their family, well, specifically men, right, from their families kidnapped and shipped off to El Salvador as slaves, basically. And like there's limited things that we can do about that, right? Podemos hacer escándalo, but in the end, like it comes down to all these laws and all the people with their armies and guns and like what they decide. But at least like there's people to speak out for us, to show like love and support, and to just say that it's wrong. And like with Palestina, like right, make sure that at least it's not said that we were just like quiet and like scared and not doing anything. And in the end, like if they want to come for us, like they'll come for us, but at least we can deal with whatever comes with dignity and knowing that we tried and that we spoke and that we like stood on the side of justice with like our communities, with the people that are also being oppressed. And no más lo que se puede hacer, right? And like pues the fear, pues ahí está, you can't do anything about it, but just like be with our people, be with our communities, with each other. And I heard somebody also say somewhere online something about like all the little like infighting and like issues with people within communities or organizations or whatever it is. And like we cannot maybe like not love each other all the time or have a little whatever it is, but in the end, like we're the people that will stand by each other when when things are serious, and the people that we can count on for what we need.
I just wanted to add one thing, one simple thing, because I know your heart, your heart, your person, your being is shelter. Okay? So in these times, I think one of the most important things we can do is just be there for each other. And remember that even if they take away all of our funding of our fancy institutions and they shut down San Jose State and they shut down all the universities, you are a walking university. You are walking books. You are walking stories. You create that in your homes and your hearts.
All right, folks, I think we're down to time and overtime. And the librarians would love to shout us out in closing here.
Everybody, let's join me in giving our wonderful authors a round of applause for all their wonderful words. I mean, wonderful doesn't really describe it well. You are all excellent. Thank you so much for this work. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Riot. Again, they have their books on the table back there. Not just this one, but several other ones. And then I just wanted to say, if for some reason you can't pick up a copy of the book today, we do have copies at the San Jose Public Library branches. So please, find it somehow, get it somehow. And I want to invite my colega here, Asi Barroso Ramirez.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I want to give a special shout out to ROSANNA Alvarez, who came to us with this idea for this amazing program and letting us partner with her to create this. So, ROSANNA, thank you so, so much. You are an amazing community activist, and it is an honor to be your colega. Thank you. Also, the refreshments were provided by Dulcinea Bakery, Panaderia Oaxaqueña, local business. So please support. Thank you so much for joining us. And now we can close with time for pictures and book signings. Thank you. Students, good evening. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'll hand it over to Ben really quick.
Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Good afternoon. Mi nombre es Benjamin Martinez. I'm honored to welcome you on behalf of San Jose Public Library and San Jose State University, Dr. Martin Luther King Library. Today's conversation is a celebration of community, heritage, and the voices of Chicanas reclaiming space and narrative through art and storytelling. Whether you've read the book cover to cover or just getting introduced to it, like myself, we're excited to hold a space for dialogue, reflection, and connection. We invite you to listen deeply, ask thoughtful questions, and engage in the spirit of learning and empowerment. And before I hand it over to our moderator, just so you all know, if you need to use the restroom, we're more than welcome to stand up. It's right over here to the right, walking out. And with that being said, without further ado, I'll hand it over.
Thank you, Ben. Before we get started and I hand it over to our actual moderator, we're going to go ahead and do the land acknowledgement. While we gather at San Jose State University, we are gathered on the ethno-historic tribal territory of the Tamien Ohlone, who were the direct ancestors of the lineages enrolled in the Muwekma Ohlone tribe and who were missionized into Mission Santa Clara, San Jose, and Dolores. The lands on which San Jose State University is established was and continues to be of significance to the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. We also recognize that the ancestors of the Muwekma Ohlone constructed and maintained the 3 Bay Area missions. Our campus extends to surrounding areas that held a tupentak, a traditional roundhouse, which were once located on the historic Lope Iñigo's land grant Rancho Pozolmi, y Positas de las Animas, Little Wells of Souls, and also Marcelo, Pio, and Cristobal's land grant Rancho Ulistac, which were places of celebration and religious ceremonies, as well as nearby ancestral heritage shell mounds that served as the tribe's traditional cemetery sites and territorial monuments. San Jose State University also desires to honor the military service of the Muwekma who have honorably served overseas during World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, and who are still serving in the United States Armed Forces today. Now, thank you everyone for joining us, and I will hand it over to Profesora, Artista, Poeta, Colega, ROSANNA Alvarez.
Thank you. I feel very judged with this kind of microphone. Maybe I'll buy one for my house. I don't know. All right. And then it becomes boots, cuts. We're gonna have fun. Thank you all for being here this evening. It is my pleasure, my honor, my joy, my resilience, y todo eso estar en comadrazgo with these fierce Chicanas who have so graciously shared their stories, their palabras, and their corazones with us. This is our second round of the day, so it's going to feel a little deja vu, but it's different energy that we're sharing with each of you in the room. With us today, we have Vicky Bañales, Poet Laureate of Watsonville, Laura DíAZ Tovar, Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo, I'm just going to list them all, Aide Medina, Claudia MELÉNDEZ Salinas, SENDY TAPIA, BRENDA VACA, and myself. And I will go ahead and do, fancy introductions for all of us with our bios as we move along in the program. But before I do that, there are a series of QR codes in these slides. We're so Silicon Valley. From the resistance space of the margins to the center. And so I'm taking back these QR codes. If you want access to this, you can scan that little code and it'll take you to the same slideshow. If you're like, I wanted to read those bios, I didn't quite hear it in that moment, and I need to hear it again, ahí está. And then as we move along, I've also gone ahead and gotten QR code happy so that each of the QR codes in the bios links to their Instagram. Because every time I hear a poet in the world, I always want to know more. And so I figure, why not? Just make it easy. We have these tools. Let's use them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda. And Brenda is going to tell us a little bit more about the anthology as our publisher and fierce, book hustler extraordinaire, if you will. And definitely our writing enabler in so many ways. But Brenda's official bio, as we'll see in a second here, is expansive and extensive. She's a Chicana poet, an author, an independent publisher from, one more time, Xicana, unceded Tongva territory known as South Whittier, California. She earned her BA in English at UC Berkeley with a minor in creative writing. So she was about that life since way back when. Later, she went on to graduate school in Berkeley, earning a Master of Divinity and a Master of Arts in Biblical Languages from the Pacific School of Religion and Graduate Theological Union. She served as an ordained elder working primarily in Latinx communities within the United Methodist Church for 10 years in East San Ho, which is how we met because I was working at Somos Mayfair. And the rest is history. Poetry and writing have been lifelong passions. She's the author of Riot of Roses and the founder of Riot of Roses Press Publishing House, which is the official home of Somos Xicanas. Can we get a round of applause for Brenda VACA?
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for coming out on, is it Thursday? It's a Thursday night. I'm like, what day is it? Thank you so much, Rosanna and San Jose Library for gathering us and hosting us today. It's been wonderful to see the Somos Xicanas book come to life. I did want to share a little bit about the project. Lou Schweg is our amazing editor who envisioned this project many years ago. I think it's always been a vision and a dream in her heart to see a collection like this come to life. So many of the writers you see before you were influenced by such writers such as Gloria Anzaldúa, Shri Moraga, and all these wonderful anthologies, but it had been so long since a collection like this had been created. So Luce put a call out. I think we've heard different timelines, 2015?
I think it was 2023.
2023. I went to even further back than that. I'm not sure. But it was definitely something that captured all of our imagination. And I remember submitting a poem, one that is included here, and it took a life of its own. We're at 83 contributors in this anthology, many poet laureates among us, a lot of, round of applause. We've got city poet laureates, we have state poet laureates, we have a national poet laureate, Ada Limon, included, and it's just been amazing and epic to see this collection come to life. And we have emerging writers, a lot of writers that for the first time in their life, they're seeing their work in the black and white. And for me, that's just such a special feeling. It's an all Chicana anthology, people that identify as Chicana, and yet you'll hear about their roots, people coming from, also from Guatemala and Japanese Chicana backgrounds. We're not a monolith. We are just so many different world experiences and perspectives. And we also are multi-genre. So there's a lot of poets in the space, I think, today, but we also have fiction writers, essays, nonfiction and science fiction influenced writers included. And it's just really wonderful to see this beautiful fat baby out in the world. Riot of Roses likes to publish really thick books. So I in particular am proud that this is almost, I think we're at like 340 something pages. So thank you for your support and for coming out. Appreciate you. Thank you again, Rosanna, for having us.
With your own pieces, because so as the publisher, sometimes we were out there in LA with Brenda, and she was so interested in making space for all of the collective voices that it felt a little bittersweet that we didn't get to do right by your piece. And so I wanted to kick us off not just with Brenda talking about the anthology, but Brenda reading us her work as a contributor in the anthology as well.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna jump off the anthology a little bit if I can. I'm going to read a poem that was recently published in La Bloga. That's just fun to do. And it's a sound from my neighborhood and also just an ode to street vendors called Poemario Woman. ¿Quién quiere poemas? ¿Quién quiere poemas de fresa, de chocolate? ¿Quién quiere poemas de nuez horchata? ¿Quién quiere poemas de gozo? Poemas llenos de sexo, poemas pegajosos con miel, poemas que contienen universos. ¿Quién quiere poemas de cariño o rancor? ¿Quién anhela poemas de esperanza y amor? Quien conozca poemas de trabajo y sudor. ¿Quién aquí quiere poemas? ¿Quién quiere poemas del barrio y del rancho? ¿Quién ocupa poemas de muerte y resurrección? ¿Quién necesita poesía de liberación? Adelante, compa. Bienvenida, comadre. Pásale, pásale, jóvenes. Aquí tenemos poesía para todos, todas, todes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to read one more. It's a throwback since it's Throwback Thursday from my collection, Riot of Roses, called Poem for the Fat Feminist Who Gave Me Back My Body. I love reading this poem. You gave me back my thighs, those hips, the ones that never lie, that move to the right and to the left. Don't matter which way I try to move them, they have a mind of their own, jiggle and roll. You gave me back my breasts, the ones I always tried to hide, the ones that made me want to crawl inside this chest. Boobs that sag so soon when the truth is they always started low, singing. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me. As soon as I come home, this bra comes off. Wires that dig into my sides, the ones that tried their damnedest to hike these casabas up to my chin, chinny chin chins. The same breasts I was told to hide, cover up, don't let them see your headlights. Tápate la pechuga, mommy encourages. And when I became clergy, pues todavía más. I had to buy a thicker, heavier robe. God forbid that anyone get offended when I'm trying to preach. God forbid that anyone see my headlights when I'm trying to preach the good news. God forbid, heaven forbid, anyone see this body I'm in. The same one Creator gave me, made from the earth. Adama, earthling, Evaton, unseen, Pachamama, my DNA, the one my mothers gave me. You gave me back my arms, the one society tells me, wear long sleeves. It can be 100 degrees out and I'm supposed to wear a sweatshirt? Nah, that's not for me. Not anymore. These are my limbs and I am the tree. Fat girl, you gave me back my nostrils. The ones there was no way I could hide. Breathe through your mouth or breathe through your nostrils. And like my mama, we didn't want to be the kind of fat women that you could hear coming from down the hall. The one that announces her arrival, snorting, sweat beating the brow, the kind of woman that sounds like she's about to have a heart attack. Oh, but we have been these women. So I couldn't hide these nostrils, these wide, nosy, indigenous nostrils. There was this one time at Zamoranos in East Oakland when I was devouring a carne asada con todo with Wendy and another one of her friends from high school. We laughed so hard after taking a bite of a tasty and crisp green cebollita. We laughed so hard that green onion literally flew out my nose through these nostrils. I give me back my nostrils. This nose that is too wide by society's standards, but the one that is just right for me, the one that goes on my face. Oh, I'm not a mistake. I am on purpose, a thing of beauty, an amazing thing. My kin, same skin, same nose, same nostrils. Fat girl, poeta, indígena, diosa, cuatlicue, you gave me back my body. It runs deep your blood through these veins. No amount of hate, no amount of maiming, no amount of rape could water down this DNA.
It is evident on my skin, Cristo said. Touch these scars. This is proof that I am me. These scars, this struggle are what lead me to this faith. My laughter has been key. This smile on me, this smile on my face for the whole human race. And no construction of race or gender can dismember this body. No construction of ethnicity can stop me from being me and all I was made to be. You gave me back my body. For that, I am grateful. May it be so, as in heaven, so below. Thank you. Thank you.
Amazing.
What I love about public readings is that, yes, you could read these stories on your own, but when you layer on the poet's voice, the storyteller's voice, it takes on a whole other dimension, right? Because alongside that, we are walking stories and archives, and the way that our voice sounds when we sing our poetry, it's just a very unique, once-in-a-lifetime experience. Even when it's caught on camera, right? It's different live. So I thank you all for taking the time to be here with us tonight. Next up in the queue, we have the switches. Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo, a visual artist, poet, and facilitator based in the San Francisco Bay Area. Her work explores heritage, culture, and identity through indigenous, Mesoamerican, and Chicana influences, fostering unity, empowerment, and healing. Her paintings and sculptures have been exhibited in over 60 shows across the U.S., including solo exhibitions at La Peña Cultural Center and Centro de Artes Gallery. Her work has been featured in the Mercury News, NBC's Comunidad del Valle, Telemundo, and Univision. A former creative ambassador for San Jose, she has received grants from MACLA, Root Division, and the California Arts Council. She's the manager of Roots Artist Registry and founder of La Raíz magazine. Un aplauso for Elizabeth Jimenez Montelongo.
Gracias. All right, so some of us said we were going to stand up for our poems. And I do kind of feel more comfortable because I'm used to standing when I read these in public. So first I'm going to share the poem that I have in Somos Xicanas. It's about like stereotypes that I've like heard about Chicanas in general, or just, you know, things that I've heard people say. So I just put it into a poem. So here it is. Stereotype me sometime. Sometimes I'm a Chicana and a chongo, with bright blue nails, darkened eyebrows, big earrings, and chanclas. Sometimes I'm a hard-working Mexicana, looking all sweaty and tired, with my worn-out jeans, mis tenis, and my daughter. Suddenly, I'm that spicy Latina you dream about, though you'll never admit it. Red lipstick, smile, and a dress. Sunny days, I'm a sweet, smart Mexican girl, gentle, graceful, minding those manners, even when you call me Hispanic. Sporadically, I'm a prissy, oh-so-educated Latina, being aggressive and combative, so disagreeable, so defiant. I'll snap at you, scold you, soothe you, school you. So sweaty, so sassy, so sexy, so sweet, so subversive, scandalous. Gracias. Right, this other one. Okay, I was gonna read a different one, but I remembered somebody requested a food poem. So here's Como con las manos. I hope we all ate. All right, Como con las manos. I want to hold my food, feel it with my fingers, the texture on my skin before I taste it. I want to feel the oily tortilla of my taco al pastor. I want to feel that rough tostada de ceviche that loses toppings as I crunch it, as I devour it. I want a warm tamal in my hand, salsa y queso y crema dripping off the sides. I want to eat that birria right, con tortillas and tacos quesabirria, consomé dripping off my chin. I want that chile verde in the gorditas and on the sopes to end up all over my fingers so I can lick them off. I want to mop the mole off my plate with a warm tortilla. My daughter wants to eat salad and eggs with her fingers. Enjoy. Roll up a pancake and eat it like a taco. Go for it. Hold those little trees of broccoli, pick up those peas and beans one by one like they're gems. Touch that food, shape it, arrange it. Some call it playing with food. I call it art, and my mom let me do it. Orange Mexican rice de ocalis, little flat-topped pyramids de arroz, were my recurring sculptures. Table manners are for tables, not for people who know how to experience their food long before it gets in their mouth. Some would judge my way of eating, but so what if my elbows are on the table? At least I'm not putting my codo on the minimum wage. So what if I slurp my caldo de pollo? At least I'm not slurping all the profit off someone else's labor. So what if I lick my fingers, smack my lips? At least I'm not licking or kissing anybody's anything para quedar bien. So what if I play with my food? At least I don't play with other people's lives. So what if I burp? It's better than talking hot air, making promises I won't keep. There are some things I'll never know, like why I've never eaten enchiladas con las manos, or why there's a limit to how high I can pile the pozole on my spoon. But what I do know is that when my napkin stays on the table, you can bet I'm leaning over my food, breathing it, holding it, savoring it, the way food was meant to be handled. I leave nothing on my plate. Snatch up those bits of carnitas, every last crumb of milanesa belongs in my mouth, and I'll enjoy the leftovers con salsa mañana. That's how to handle comida, con las manos. And let the comments fall on a tapete made of repurposed judgment, reduced hierarchy, recycled capitalism. Gracias. Thank you. And then the last poem I'm going to share, oh yeah, I should mention, so this is from my new book, Breathe Liberación. I just got it a few weeks ago, published by Editorial Xingao. And the poem that I'm going to share, I wrote it in Palabras del Pueblo, which is raza-centered writers' workshops that are open to anybody. They're online. And I attended these several times, but this was from the very first session ever. And it was based on, so it's supposed to be like based on a slur. So we were given like a list of slurs that are used against our community, like Raza Chicano communities, and we were supposed to kind of think of like how to transform them, how to turn them into something else. And so I wanted to write like this poem that I found. Well, I was trying to it just kind of came to me, honestly. But it's supposed to be kind of like empowering and, not letting like those words that are used against us like matter. Like, why should they matter, right? Like, anyone can say something to you, but we let it hurt. It's like we're caring like what they think, and we really shouldn't. Like, we should only care about the people that are like encouraging us and supporting us, and everything else is just like, like whatever noises you hear outside, like who cares? So I wrote this poem on the word spick, and it's called I Spick Beans. I have a vision for the future, a future where I spick the beans I planted myself on reclaimed land. I have a vision for the future, a future where I speak the language que me da la gana, and everybody likes it or minds their own lengua. I have a vision for the future where I speak where I been all day, which won't be working all day, for others to skim the profits off my labor. I've been thinking, I could speak where I live if it weren't for papers, paredes, politicians, police, prisons, and pendejo policies, which try to keep me from building my house of mud and straw, right here on the lands of my ancestors, while I hear, go back to where you came from. Go back to Mexico. You don't belong here. When the truth is, we've been here first. We've been here longer. We speak more languages, and we speak them all better. And we're not speaking to them anymore, because our spit just ain't worth wasting. When it's like talking to a wall, they can't hear us. They echo the same outdated, inaccurate points for 500 years. They can say it to my face porque me vale. I'll say, face the facts, you're wrong. I'll say, face it, you're racist. I'll say, face it, you're jealous. And we're not phasing you out. You're phasing yourself out, because you need us, and we really don't need you. I have a vision for the future where we speak the words we dream up, the words we share together. Speaking of realities we pull through portals, they're already on their way. I have a vision for the future, a vision of today that's a vision of yesterday, or we been cooking beans in our largest ollas, our deepest ollas, the ollas of our minds. We pick the best beans only, throw out the infiltrated rocks. We spot them immediately, a la primer pasada. And only the best beans are getting boiled. We rinse them y a la olla. Unos ajos de amor, an onion to undo the trauma. Sal con sabor a cultura. Hojas de laurel y hojas de liberación. We pick only the best beans and they come out perfect. We serve those beans up. We dip our best cucharon into the ollas. We serve those beans up into the deepest bowls, our hearts, each other's corazones, fresh cebolla, jitomate, and cilantro on top. We pick only the best beans and they come out perfect. Gracias.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And you'll notice that a lot of the folks up here are multifaceted. And so to distill what you do with your storytelling with one word or phrase is impossible because we come from a Floricanto people. And I think this is in some ways a disruption of the panel form because as you'll notice, the poetry is talking to each other and the prose is also joining in the conversation. And so part of the panel experience is how each piece is having a conversation with every mujer who's up here with their stories in hand. So thank you again for humoring us and making the drive and making the time. Next up in the queue, we have SENDY Tapia. SENDY is a mesmerizing daydreamer in the world of storytelling, weaving narratives that inspire and uplift. With over 15 years of experience as a wordsmith, she has honed her craft to amplify voices that often go unheard. Born into a family of seasonal farm workers, SENDY's journey from the fields to becoming a first-generation college graduate of San Jose State University is a testament to resilience, ambition, and the power of education. Her work is rooted in a deep commitment to bridging opportunities for her community, ensuring that others can also transform their daydreams into reality. Through her storytelling, advocacy, and mentorship, and within her role as managing editor of EASTSIDE magazine, SENDY empowers others to embrace their own narratives and carve out spaces where they belong. SENDY Tapia, everyone.
Thank you. It always sounds really cool when you read off my bio. A couple of housekeeping, just in case there's napkins in the back. Drink water because you do get dehydrated if you cry, because it might get heavy. But also to pretext this, so I wrote this personal narrative in my last semester at San Jose State in 2019. It was one of the, I think it was nonfiction classes that I took for fun. Later to realize it did not feel a requirement, but neither here nor there. I took a lot out of it. And this is the first time I am published outside of just being an editor for EASTSIDE magazine, so it takes paying my roots. So it's called El peso de las letras y los cargos, which roughly translates to the weight of writing. First generation graduate, grassroots activist, hija de migrantes, and storyteller for life. I was raised in a small country town deep within the 45th parallel of Eastern Oregon's Blue Mountains. For 16 years, I only knew of my heritage from what my parents passed down to me through their life lessons, work ethics, and the far in between glimpses of Mexico living. Outside my home, I was one of 2 to 3 students out of 100 students in my high school who spoke Spanish, getting pulled from classes to test my ESL skills and overlooked when it came to signing up for Spanish class, porque yo ya hablaba español, así como se justificaba un sobresaliente fácil. Or in other words, why would you give the Spanish girl an easy A? Code switching, imposter syndrome, discrimination, chicanismo, and cultural assimilation were terms and intersections too abstract for me to understand how they directly impacted my childhood and identity. That doesn't happen to me. I've known her since kindergarten. I don't get bullied. I just have different interests. I don't know why I have to take these tests and not my classmates. Every summer, like clockwork, los campos se abrían for the cherry orchards coating the agriculturally rich valleys that once unceded territories of the Nez Perce, Umatilla, Walla Walla, and Cayuse tribes. 40 years of agricultural labor shared between Mis Padres de Michoacán and I, a product of their sacrifices, became absorbed into the meaning of trabajando en el campo, helping translate, assisting in managing buckets picked and to whom to credit, cleaning the temporary housing shacks for the migrant workers y más. The days were long, hot, occasionally humid. While my peers went on vacations and visited family, the days started in the madrugadas beside my parents for long hours and cherishing the few family members who would migrate with the crowd. Those summers were spent speaking Spanish from sunrise to sunset with my limited campo vocabulary until school began, and I would naturally code switch into my Anglo-passing personality again. The physical labor of workers, elders, and young adults stretched across 169 acres of cherry orchards, the origin of blood, sweat, and skills, because the faster you worked, the more money you plucked out of the cherry trees. Every summer day, I was lectured about the value of education. Every summer day, I witnessed the results of lack of knowledge, resources, and exposure. By the time I was 14, I had walked every row of the orchard and grew to recognize when the trees were ripe or still needed heat to turn to sugar sweet. Although the fresh morning air would only remind me of how much I hated and still hate waking up early and carrying a three-legged aluminum ladder that dug uncomfortably into my shoulder when finding my assigned tree, it was the motivation La Gente needed to work as hard as they could before the sun peaked above the mountains and brought forth its scorching summer heat. I distinctly remember plugging in my headphones and disassociating into the endless depth of my imagination until I felt the deep rumblings of the tractors that passed in between the rows with the swampers swinging buckets of cherries and dumping them into the plastic bins, weighed and shipped to not-so-local markets. Others were not so fortunate to have technology like La Gringa que era pero no sabía. Many sang from their soul under the trees or along battery-operated radios that hung off the trees, told jokes, hooted and hollered, and to make their cherry-picking neighbors and my parents laugh. The country life stayed rooted in the soul as I transitioned from my tiny town to a moderate town where the majority of my peers looked like and talked like me. There were moments when I would come to grips with the meaning of code switching, imposter syndrome, discrimination, and cultural assimilation. Little did I realize how underserved the rural agricultural communities of California's Central Valley truly were. The lack of resources, the lack of bus stops and routes, limited bilingual translators, little to no option for work unless it was under the searing weather. My first understanding of what the other side of the tracks was, what it meant to be from the east side, what they didn't teach me about Cesar Chavez in school, I saw day in and day out in the rural towns of California. To this day, my parents and the majority of my extended family continue to live in these areas. It is one of the many pockets of immigrant-heavy, Spanish-speaking, campo-like communities in the States. One of the few thoughts in the back of my head that has me pondering is whether I'd return to share the wealth of knowledge I have cultivated in progressive cities, or if I'd burn out from how set the mentality is in the areas. As my parents slowly lost their bilingual skills after spending 20 years in an Anglo community, I fought to strengthen my own native tongue in hopes to better communicate my feelings and lessons. The blessing I received from agreeing to move in the middle of high school was the first taste of what echándole ganas would reap. Becoming the anime president placed me in big shoes when I first stepped into the role, but I quickly realized how leaders influence more than a crowd of anime-loving individuals, and how working beside Mis Padres y la Raza had shaped the leader growing inside of me. From organizing the group to fundraise money to attend their first anime convention in Fresno, California, to reaching out and inviting all the misfits and outcasts in school to join a community of like-minded individuals where they too were judged for not fitting in the norm. It was acceptance that I sought in my tiny agricultural town before me. Growth didn't stop once I moved. I left for college feeling like a bigger fish in the pond. I didn't know what to expect going to university in the Shark Tank of San Jose, California. All I knew at the time was how challenging life could be when surrounded by farm labor and family that follow los caminos del campo, porque eran los caminos más atravesados. As my college years developed, the intricate, almost soul-searching style of storytelling and the perspective to dream the undreamable as a boundary to push, I struggled with coming to terms with the privilege I was sitting on from all of my parents' sacrifices. So, how does Sendy fit into all this? Today, I stand for the folks who look like me but cannot articulate like me, the ones who couldn't fathom the opportunities to leave the country life, and the ones who left and started at the bottom of the tank just like me. I stand for the freedom to earn a livable wage regardless of the immigration status, to have premium health care regardless of your health status, to live fully without having to depend on 2 or 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over your head. Workable conditions for migrant workers that continue to be the backbone of this country, porque mi ma, mi papá, right there on the front lines. If my voice could be an echo chamber of affirmations and behaviors that pave the upcoming wave of social and community leaders, then every story I heard as a child, the inmigrantes, adults, child, elder, and parent, these stories can continue to live a life on their own, como recuerdos de los sacrificios de mi raza. Through the power of letras, I carry every title at the beginning of this article con orgullo, in hopes of adding and refining and passing on the lessons of my heritage, upbringing, y el amor de mi gente to everyone I can touch. And those words were first-generation graduate, grassroots activist, hija de inmigrantes, and storyteller for life. Thank you.
Sendy, thank you for bringing your sacred tears to the mitote here. I think a lot of times, I grew up with no llores, and so I had to learn to get back in touch with my tears. And so we live in some hostile times where it's important to remember to feel, and storytelling is an invitation into that. So thank you for sharing your corazón with us. Next up in the queue, we have, I should have put drum roll in these slides. Sorry. Dun, 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 dun. Thank you. Laura DíAZ Tovar. Laura DíAZ Tovar is a poet, mixed media, visual artist, brace yourselves, creative educator and community worker born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico, living on occupied Ohlone land in San Jose, California. Her poetry and art celebrate culture, community, family, and love. She has created and implemented trauma-informed spaces and organized around the issues of gender-based violence, immigration, public health, workers' rights, and housing. As a co-founder of Colibri Collective, a collective of women of the global majority, she creates poetry and art workshops, healing circles, community-based educational spaces, and a wellness and healing-centered podcast called Conexiones Mágicas. Her poetry and art have appeared in Journal X, La Libreta Women in Creative Rebellion Poetry Journal, La Raíz Magazine, and the Somos Xicanas anthology. Laura, take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Take a deep breath, because we're just hearing a lot, and it's hitting me right in el corazón, all this medicine, but thank you so much. I'm going to read the poem it's in the anthology, and then I'll read 2 short poems. This one's called The Writer, and it's for those of us that many times haven't called ourselves writers or artists. Oh, I don't know. It took me a long time. I just write, or I just paint, right? But how to own it and embody it. So I am the writer. I am the writer, but I have no words. Today is a day for grounding myself, my thoughts, my damaged pieces. Colonized pieces of turquoise left in mi sepulcro vacío, sprinkled like seeds across dirt fields, sinking into the earth's exhale when the great dying begins. only to be discovered by hands seeking to erase my life. Long after I've left this place, remember the mangled pieces. Today is the day to look at calendars and count the years it takes for someone else's cells, coded ancient DNA, to be completely expunged from me, from us as a people. I am the writer, but I couldn't find the word for no. I kept inviting sad inside to hold my hand, witness the depths of my scarred dreams and broken bones. I kneel before the altar I created in my soul in the darkness of the night. Slowly I begin to excavate healing words from the quiet and wounded chambers of my decaying heart. The words remind me that I am café con leche, pink conchas, and virotes con frijoles, de tortas pero no ahogadas. I am jazz de Miles and Coltrane, son jarocho de los blues de Billie Holiday, and rap, intricate beats, deep desde Tupac to Kendrick, del mariachi en la plaza y los toros en carnaval, where my tío Charlie would buy us all botana and cervecitas. I never liked the taste of beer, and we weren't old enough to drink, but those memories of all of us together are flowing together into sentences now. I remember I am Agustin Lara, whispered late at night, Sade, purple like Prince, y serenatas en mi ventana under lucid moons. I am Guadalajara, de la Tierra Mojada, de San José, de Muwekma, Ohlone land. I am Rio Medellín, Outland de Navarro, donde nació el tío Carlos Santana. The South 7th Street with its big backyard, full of corn and chiles, gallinas, and stray gatitos. I am for Marta in Reed Streets, in the heart of downtown San Ho. I am liberation, like a roar of thunder in the murmurs at sunset, and in every brown pajarito at sunrise, holding the promise of freedom, because sometimes those sounds are all the music we need to keep going. And I remember what words we've had to repeat to exhaustion, that it's not about bad apples when death comes disguised as Blue Lives Matter, that it's easier to ignore the root of that tree than the filth it was planted in, that it's not the apples that cause destruction of land and of brown and black bodies, but it's the farmers steeped in colonial shit, poisoning water and air, and how we love and how we heal, selling crates of rotten fruit as retribution for demanding we be free. So we dig deep into the earth and find that we're connected by roots, like the secret language of trees, but with words. I hear them in the wind, and in a flash, the words come to me like lightning, filling me with power and light. Arriving, I use them to write poems across my heart, across our hearts. I became the voracious witness. I am the writer. Thank you. The other ones are a little shorter. Those are a little wordy. Not prepared. Not organized. Hold on. Give me a sec. Okay. This one's called Ode to an Enchilada. And this was a poem also from a workshop, a Palabras del Pueblo workshop, the online workshops. And Lorna Di Cervantes was teaching this. And so the title of our workshop was Ode to an Enchilada. Ode to an Enchilada. From the backyards, I pulled one last dandelion from in between sidewalk cracks under some summer sun bath. I saw my mommy in the kitchen moving back and forth in front of the window. Concealed by her handmade curtains made with pedacitos de tela from La Newberries on Story and King at the Tropicana, she'd always pick the happiest colors, yellow and orange. I could tell que andaba enchilada. I could tell by the way the smell of the pasilla joined the breeze, reached my nose, and made me sneeze 3 times. Mommy was making enchiladas, con ganas this time. She must be mad at my apa again. She always made them the same, the only ones I like. What sadness was she trying to blend into the molcajete? That humble corn tortilla never stood a chance. The pasilla paste slathered on both sides, chili dipped, watered down by tears, little tubes crying to be let into the sizzling hot pan. I hear my mommy call out to me, "Ven a comer," knowing I will taste her melancholy in the dish. A mountain of enchiladas lands on the table like a suppressed memory. Mommy always made a pyramid of them and called them la flauta enchilada. Steam rose from the top. Cotija and queso fresco tumbled out of others. Thick red paste became one with the tortillas as if maize was born crimson. My papi refused to eat that night. He knew the power of her enchiladas. But I sat there and let myself be taken to another galaxy. Those enchiladas, simple and unassuming, basic and traditional, yet with the power to resist your chingaderas. This is my ode to la enchilada, mi mamá. I'm not going to point her out because she'll be like, they had that. I mean, and the last one is, this is an ode to the desert, unconditional. Unconditional. When did your face grow those lines like deep desert cracks etched by sun's whispered secrets, so delicately above your brow? When did your soft brown eyes begin to pierce with heated anger through me, embers flickering beneath your lashes? Your hand never needed to touch my skin for the sting to burn. I saw the air shimmer before me, a belt's shadow curling like a serpent. Belt buckles rattled when the closet door swung open. I heard you cry once when your father died, and you forgave him, even though his fist reached your tender frame so many times so long ago. His ghost still lingers in the hallway, muttering apologies that dissolve before they reach your ears. No one ever held you close, told you they loved you, and even through the harsh desert of your tired, weathered face, I see the wind carry your sorrow away, turning into golden dust that dances in the air. I can see your brown eyes smiling, like a riverbed finally touched by rain. I love you, Apa, unconditionally. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. It's always beautiful to hear folks again, right? What's the cadence and the lyricality and the musicality of your voice as you're reading your work on the page? Next up in the queue, I always think it's funny when I'm splitting myself in so many ways. Pero esta no quiere. I'm breaking it. I'm breaking all the things. Hey, it's falling apart. It's me. Hey, it's me. Hey, girl. Hey. So yo. All right. Y'all can read that at your leisure, or you can just go to rosannaalvarez.com and read all my chismes. I try to keep up to date. But in short, I'm a braided storyteller, bien greñuda. My hair is never really in a braid, and if it is, somebody else did it. I guarantee you my braiding skills, if they're not with words, are very mediocre. I'm an educator. I work here at San Jose State. I teach Chicana studies, and I also work at Gavilan College out in the Gilroy and Hollister area. I'm a mother to 3 guerreras. I'm a trucker's wife. I'm all around. If I had to distill in one single phrase everything I do out in the world, I am a professional chismosa. And so I go around looking for the stories, the connection, the people. If you are in the room and a part of you is like, I'm not a writer, and I'm like, I smell it, I'm coming for you. And so there's that little spidey sense that we all carry where like attracts like. And there are people in the room who, like me years back, are yearning to see their work in tangible form. And I am all about the collective enablement of that, because there was a story for me to step into this. And so, like my colegas here, I'm also going to go ahead and script it, because, oh my gosh, guess what? You can hella buy this book up there before you go. And my poems are on page 23 and like 113 or 114 or something like that. And so while I was thrilled to have 2 things in that collection, I feel like today's a beautiful opportunity to give you a little bit of poetic legacy, if you will, because there are pieces that inspired this and there are pieces that are inspired by this. And the hope is that you too will become a part of that literary legacy, if you will. And if you choose to publish, talk to us. Brenda's publishing, I'm publishing. Sendy has inherited the torch of my co-founding of EASTSIDE magazine. So Sendy is also publishing now. And that's how it goes. The chispitas, the spark. And so for me, this journey, if you will, began when I was a teenager. And this piece doesn't have a name. It kind of came into being when I drove down to LA to read from the Somos Xicanas anthology for an event down there a couple weeks back. And it just so happened that Lorna D. Cervantes was in the room. And so that day, I was like, Sendy, llorando y leyendo. Today, I'm going to keep it chill. I don't know. I can't guarantee, but she's not here in physical form, but I know she's always with me, and a lot of us in particular. It all began with Lorna D. as I held Emplumada in my hands.
I wondered if she knew she had written to me across space and time, affirming the wisdom that lived in my bones before the words and analysis had been individually forged, the power of my inheritance as a Chicana, the power of ink in hands, La Tinta Sagrada, whose stories lived out in the open. That precious knowledge found me in the library stacks as I eagerly searched for pieces of me to combat the aggressive fragmentation of me, all before I could see myself in the dusty shelves of a King Library. Today, I wonder how many of us have been sacrificed as we tend to the wounds of displacement while I travel along the concrete scar of 280. And now, every time the academic semester begins with Lorna D. Cervantes' poem for the young white man who asked me how I, an intelligent, well-read person, could believe in the war between races. As I show up with evidence at the ready, shells mistaken for ammunition, where I've tucked away the seeds of power beyond remembrance, reminding ourselves of the legacy of our words to combat the hostile erasure of us. We have seen the power of us, written ourselves back into the archive, reconnected to our ombligo, recalibrated our DNA, reclaimed our semillas, and scattered them fiercely back into the hands of the people. Y eso no se borra nunca. That's not published anywhere yet, although snippets of that will be showing up in an article, all scholarly, Aslan Journal coming up in sometime later this year. And they're like, write a scholarly article. I'm like, there's going to be poetry in there. And then they were like, oh my God, I love it. So I was like, thank you. So I'm not deleting it. I said, ironically, if you don't want to hear, I'll find it at home somewhere else. And that'll be so ironic because we're all looking for Aslan. So it worked out. But
library available. That's JSU Sparks. Entire work. Once again, the library will be public.
Pero no nos moverán, eh? Serious business. I love the voiceover. Who gets that job? Can you sign me up? Just kidding. Okay. I get delirious closer to the evening coming to a close. And, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't shout out Brenda, who before the Somos Xicanas adventure wrote the foreword for my poetry book of poems that I thought were basura. And then Era Limon did like a workshop and somebody was like, what do you do with your old poems? And she's like, you put them out there anyway because they need to be in the world and they need to be in conversation with your new poems. And I was like, well, yeah. So then I was like, pues a la fregada. And I had all these papelitos scattered in my living room. My kids' hair sheets, like facts, true. Yes, it was a mess. And my husband was like, ma'am, you're wasting all the ink. And I was like, get over it. It's going to pay off. And I put them into this collection. And then Brenda was like, you should enter it into the International Latino Book Awards. And then they were like, girl, guess what? You got a silver medal for the Juan Felipe Herrera Award for Best Book of Poetry. And I was like, and I thought it was basura. And also I designed the cover myself. So I'm just saying. But this was really short. And this one is called Ocote. And it's no accident that now my press is called Ocote Libre Press. It's really short. My medicine has always come from books. And if you didn't hear me the first time, books have always been my medicine. They told us we came from an oral culture, incapable of writing and archiving our stories, that we lean toward folkloric expressions by way of artesanía, presented to us like an or and an and then rather than a quite simply is and has always been, along with the perpetual bridging of the and. Later, I learned they burned our books upon arrival. And I thought about how they burned our women too. And that's it. She's tiny. And this one here, I'll end it with one from the anthology. That's pretty short, but proud to have two pieces in there. But this one here I read at the Women's March right before the pandemic. And I was like, what am I doing here in this predominantly white space? And I was like, but San Jose is not predominantly white. So I showed up for my gente. And the aunties, the Spanish-speaking only aunties, were so excited to see me up there. So I knew that it meant something to them. And I showed up because of that. So this one, I had to whip it up real quick with a big old audience.
And I had my kids up there when they were tiny but mighty, and now they're taller than me. And they were standing there the whole time with me, and it was beautiful. But this one, it kind of still felt like the invitation was an afterthought, and maybe that wasn't true, but we're still primed to be the afterthought or the tokenized one person in the room. So it's beautiful to sit here, una mesa llena de Chicanas, and that to know that it's a whole 300 plus thick book of so many voces Chicanas. And I think that's significant. So this one's called Chinga tu Afterthought. We are not an afterthought. We are an exclamation. My standing here, an affirmation. My ancestors' resistance turned reclamation. Surviving and thriving in spite of indignation. My rhymes a scathing song of liberation. Refusing artificial boundaries of trepidation. Chola scholars defying all short-sighted expectation. Scientific processes shamefully advancing our damnation. Enter guerrilla poets, aligning overdue reconciliation. We've risen beyond waves across space and time of these chronically misconstrued timelines, existing phenomenally, giving life como la luna, controlling the tides. Where we come from is so much more than a well-manicured glass house politicized beyond the lies. We are a people of cultura y corazón, herederas of círculos where the hummingbird flies, reminding us that in spite of all pretense, we continue to rise. Centering ourselves while battling critiques of self-centeredness, when that centering is essential to acknowledging our sacredness, carrying where we come from and who we've always been, hearts with East Side roots, marching while grieving all of our missing and murdered warriors, women. Amplifying stories tucked under the cadence of un/b-longing, here with fists up as we declare a long-standing legacy collectively affirming the recycled poetry of this. That who you carry is who carries you, 7 generations forward and 7 generations back, bypassing artificial wisdom as keepers of truth. And to close it out, I'm going to just do En Movimiento from page 23, Somos Xicanas. I was born of resistance at terremoto, cracking concrete, cabrona, calzonuda, y rezongona at the intersections of disappointment and possibility, del campo in the valley of heart's delight, in an orchard on land tended to by brown bodies as they shared stories of their travels, picking at their calluses while laughing in the sun. I was born of resistance at terremoto, cracking concrete, buried under a cemented maze mixed by callous hands under the direction of those that attempted to sever my ombligo from las tres hermanas, even though I was the firstborn of 9, choking out the maíz, the frijol, the calabaza. I was born of resistance at terremoto, cracking concrete, rumblings of disruptions, murmured histories, whispered secrets, swallowed tears, hazy realities, vivid dreams and prayers held in front yard nichos dedicated to female saints. I was born of resistance at terremoto, cracking concrete, hungry with the curiosity for these stories, with the longing to dig into the dirt and know more. All right. And next up, we have Claudia, MELÉNDEZ, Salinas. Give me a second to read through your glorious bio here. We're so happy that you joined us from Salinas. Claudia MELÉNDEZ Salinas was born and raised in Puebla, Mexico, and has worked as a journalist and a writer for the past 30 years. Receipts. She began her career at El Andar, a bilingual publication for California's Central Coast that later became a national magazine. After a few years working for the Salinas Californian and the Monterey Herald, she co-founded Voices of Monterey Bay. Her first book, A Fighting Chance, was published by Arte Público Press in 2015. Her poems have been published in Journal X, Latino Literatures, La Raíz Magazine, and Somos Xicanas. Her poem, Transitioning, won the 2022 Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Award. Mi gente, Claudia MELÉNDEZ Salinas.
Thank you, Rosanna. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you. I started in kindergarten. That's why at 30 years. I was 4 when I started my journalism career. And yeah, I'm very honored to be part of this book, part of the collection, part of this panel. Look at these amazing women. 2 poet laureates here. Oh my God. Next year, all of us to the moon and beyond. My first one is from this collection. It's called Las Ojis. They wear their canas like diamond tiaras, don their huipiles like Dolce Gabbana. Chicanas. They may have been called cholas at one time, but now they ya son Chicanxes. Siwame, siwapipiltin. They are college professors, activistas, organizers, maestras, artistas, poetas, madrinas, curanderas. They heal desde una cortadita hasta 500 years of gaslighting. Eye-rolling, jaladas de trenzas, chanclazos, the burn of the emotions, promotion pass over, denied tenures, microaggressions, and macro chingaderas. Did you make this salsa? I spent a summer in Guatemala. Where are you really from? I love your tan. That's my personal favorite. At the gallery opening, honoring their own, they walk among slogans, posters, a history etched on their skin, a bittersweet reel of protests, sit-ins, pozole for sale para recaudar fondos, por la lucha que no puede cansarse nunca, their linaje embroidered on their tunics, sketched pyramids imagined by the fire, by Siwame, Siwapipiltin, mujeres antiguas que se hacen presente en sus arrugas, en sus miradas, in that way of walking that says, these threads, mantos de tela y de agua, are made for highlighting an ancestral past embodied on canas like diamond tiaras. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm also going to be of the script. I'm going to read 2 more little poems. One is published in this year's Red Wheelbarrow. It's published here in the DíAZ College, and the editor Ken Weisner, he publishes also incarcerated people, and I think it's an honor to be part of this collection that includes people whose voices are often neglected. And the poem is called Barely There. The poets and artists go around the circle, sharing their struggles, ruminations, doubts about whether the creation process is worth it, whether there are enough logs to keep the fire going. The fire crackles a bit. Rent, sucky bosses, family feuds, a decrepit government, the war industrial complex, thousands of children starving to death in their mother's arms. After consuming it all, is there any energy left to fan the flames? There has to be, the fire whispers. Yeah. And last one, I want to read a poem in Spanish, and I'm inspired. I always doubt, should I just read in Spanish or not? But we are among people who understand the struggle. I am going to cry, yay me! Because this is for people who are right now under attack by this administration. Because I guess they don't like us for our color of skin. I just really don't understand. But I guess part of it is that, part of it is ideas of who's supposed to be superior than others. And it's very infuriating. And I think that there's institutions that are caving, and I don't think we should not cave, not so fast. So this is to all those people who are not caving because they have to support their families. Inmigrante, levanta tu cara al sol, ese mismo que acarició el rostro de tus ancestros en tierras lejanas, fértiles, bondadosas. Inmigrante, por tus venas corre sangre de astrónomos, mercaderes, orfebres, gente de bronce que te pensó siglos antes de tu arribo, se inspiró en ti y te dedicó su más tierno floricanto. Inmigrante, de platos como lunas, de fresas como estrellas, de sábanas como mares, gigante como secoyas, anciano como Yosemite, profundo como el Gran Cañón. En tus manos encomendamos nuestras lechugas y hamburguesas, nuestros niños, las oficinas donde trabajamos, la cama donde dormimos cuando vacacionamos. Y gracias a ti, qué tan a gusto que lo hacemos. En ti se concentra la magia que transforma política, geografía y economía en proyecto de rehabilitación. Tu linaje te preparó para ser puente entre necesidad y abundancia, entre angustia y esperanza, entre pasado incierto y futuro prometedor. Inmigrante, fundamental como el oxígeno, suprima el agua, la vida misma. Tu esencialidad te da derecho a un lugar seguro para vivir, salarios justos, atención médica, buenos maestros para tus niños. Respira hondo, invoca a tus ancestros y exígelo todo sin miedo, que ellos sin duda velan por ti. Inmigrante, de aquí, de allá, de donde quieras ser, levanta tu cara al sol y deja que el mismo calor que te reconfortó en tierras lejanas te enaltezca por tu sudor, aquí en estas tierras fértiles o en donde quiera que estés. Gracias.
More than mind that poems en español siempre salen mejor, como que salen más sinceros, right? And más cool, sí, con más razón.
Next up in the queue, we have none other than Victoria Vicky Bañales, a Chicanx educator and writer. She is the founder and editor of Chitlali Journal, Journal X, a social justice literary arts magazine.
Right. Arts, crafts, multiple there. Once again, the library will sell public Xicana.
Her work has been widely published. She received her PhD in literature and feminist studies from the University of California, Santa Cruz, and teaches Chicanx, Latinx literature, fiction writing, and English composition at Cabrillo College in Santa Cruz County, California. She is also the poet laureate of Watsonville.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to read the piece that's in the anthology. It's on page 87 if you want to follow along. It's called Chicanas are Chingonas. Chicanas are a diverse group of people. We are teachers, students, cholas, drag queens, scientists, pole dancers, politicians, revolutionaries, and more. We are mestizas of indigenous, black, white, or other mixed race ancestry. Chicanas are transgender, or cisgender, or gender nonconforming, or pansexual, asexual, or heterosexual. Some Chicanas are monolingual, bilingual, or multilingual. Some Chicanas live in Los Angeles or the Bay Area. Others live in Detroit or Kansas City. Some Chicanas live in small rural towns with names like Weed Patch or Pájaro. Some Chicanas are U.S. born, others are immigrants. Some have papeles, others do not. Some love banda music, others listen to hip hop or both. Some drink tequila or mezcal. Others prefer sparkling water or chamomile tea. Most of us love atole or champurrado. Eyeliner and hoop earrings are essential or not. Some Chicanas wear sneakers, others wear stiletto heels, some wear both. Personally, I prefer comfy boots and flip-flops. In short, Chicanas are as diverse as the list of paleta and ice cream flavors at a Michoacana neveria. But one thing is certain, being Chicana requires having a strong political consciousness. To be Chicana is to strive for racial equity, to embrace feminism, our way, the Chicana way. We are vigilant and fight for social justice and liberation. We are strong, intelligent, intuitive, creative, resourceful, and resilient. We're loud and unapologetic. We denounce systemic racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and a whole slew of isms and phobias. We stand in solidarity with Native peoples and other minoritized communities under siege. We recognize that the prison industrial complex is real, that Black lives matter, that borders and walls divide, and that women's rights are human rights. We celebrate sexual and gender diversity. We attend marches, sign petitions, and speak out. We organize, write, protest, clap, sing, paint, meditate, lead, and chant. We hustle. Somos luchadoras. Regardless of our political leanings, Chicanas do not sell out. We do not make exceptions for pendejos like Trump. We do not call ourselves Chicanas and attend MAGA rallies. If you claim to be Chicana and wear that nefarious red hat and watch Fox News, I will say you are not Chicana. You are a Hispanic in disguise. And maybe not even that. I will say you are the chupacabra. And with my candles and sage, I will invoke the curandera in me to wish you away, cast you off to Florida. Do we have fun? Heck yeah. Most of us dance, attend concerts, throw pachangas. Others of us enjoy the great outdoors and go hiking, biking, or camping. Sometimes we dance and hike. Or maybe we do neither. Many of us are spiritual and believe in the supernatural. Chicanas are gifted storytellers, healers, artists, warriors, and inventors. Moctezuma, Yanga, Sor Juana, Emiliano Zapata, Benito Juárez, Frida Kahlo, Rodolfo, Corky González, César Chávez, Dolores Huerta, Chavela Vargas, Patsy Valdez, Yolanda Lopez. Chicanas take great pride in our culture and history and honor those who came before us and paved the way. At the same time, Chicanas take inventory, as Gloria Anzaldúa says, and we pluck out those nasty parts of our identity that we inherited from the colonizers. It's a lifelong task that requires intentional decolonial programming. It means continuously having to check ourselves. Repulsed by white supremacy and colorism, we roll our eyes and snap at relatives when they praise whiteness. We are sick and tired of anti-Blackness. We're sick and tired of anti-indigeneity. We're sick and tired of the Nuri Martinezes of the world, and there are many. With the exception of La Reina del Sur, Chicanas have difficulty watching telenovelas. The sea of whiteness hurts our eyes. On the other hand, being Chicana means embracing complexities and contradictions, like when we watch and actually enjoy those whitewashed Latin American telenovelas. Finally, being Chicana means caring for each other and the planet in which we live. It means being a good comadre and supporting our hermanas. But it also means setting healthy boundaries. It means practicing self-care and valuing our mental health and spiritual well-being. Chicanas embrace neurodivergence and recognize that many of us, whether we know it or not, are on the spectrum. Chicanas honor our elders and ancestors. We respect Madre Tierra and treat her with reverence, kindness, and love. We care about climate justice and weep for the gray wolf, the North Atlantic right whale, and other animal relatives that are under attack and threatened with extinction. And if we don't care, it's time we do. Chicanas are this and much more. Chicanas are chingonas. Thank you.
I can hear that poem over and over, and I always love how you read it. Or, last in the queue, but not least, we have Aide Medina, a Pushcart Prize nominated poet. Let's do the right switches. Award-winning spoken word artist and playwright. She is the author of 31 Hummingbird, a suite of poems and segmented bodies. Her poetry and prose have been featured in many publications, including Fresno States Club, Austral Literary Magazine, Chicano Writers and Artists Association Journal, La Bloga, Poets Responding, Split This Rock, and Nueva York Poetry Review, among many others, as well as in compositions for the 559 Mural Project and Fresno Grand Opera's Opera Remix. It is my great pleasure to introduce Aide Medina, Poet Laureate of Fresno, in the house.
like Zoom all over. Can you hear me? You're on mute. Dios mío. All right. It's been a long day, but it's a good day. You know, I was just saying that I love how everything is so shiny up here. It feels like an altar, you know? I like that. I like that. Estamos de fiesta, de manteles largos y bien brillosas. I like it. I'm going to read one of the poems of the 3 that I have in the anthology, and then I'm going to share some poems that I think are, you know, some new stuff. I like that. You inspired me to be brave and throw out the new stuff, right? Forward. Who are we running to meet? Family? Coyotes? Or heavily armed men? Tomorrow? Behind barbed wire? In front of barbed wire? When people are prey, when catch and release, when gasping, smiling sportsmen, fishes too small to keep, woman, tired eyes, tired body, tired mind, gasping, swims through mountains, deserts, falls into ravines, leaving child in thorny patch of cacti. Life judged too small for crevices to catch. Men, we forget our men, turn themselves in, turn wives in, turn daughters in, turn fathers and sons in, to one group of soldiers over another, running from guns to guns, running through lands and kin that should know us, that know us, that know them, that know you. We are one body to catch and release, point weapons at shadows, running, running forward to be returned. I feel like we're at Walmart or Kmart, and they're like, please bring your selections up to the front. All right, then. This Blue Light Special poem is a brand new one. It's hot up. So I'm very lucky that this is the second year that Modesto Junior College invites me to write the poem to address the Latinx graduation celebration. And I had a tough time this year because last year's poem was so full of happiness and celebration, and I was about it. That's the spirit that I wrote it with. And this year, I can't write lies. It's very hard for me to write fiction. I'm not good at it. I only write what is true. I still wanted to celebrate them, but I had to give them what is inside of me right now. A love letter to the Latinx graduation of 2025. Quote, when the promise of higher education is threatened, this body of graduates chooses to stand up to be counted, be heard, be seen, be brightly colored, be multilingual, be joy. Cuando está en peligro la promesa de una mejor educación, este cuerpo estudiantil escoge ponerse en pie, ser tomado en cuenta, visto, escuchado, sin temor, ser un cuerpo colorido, multilingüe, alma y corazón. Ustedes son el alivio ahora que una enfermedad de racismo nos exige silencio, busca callar nuestra celebración, negar nuestra humanidad, dudar de nuestros logros. You are medicine delivered by our ancestors to cure the ills of our world. Hierba buena, aloe vera, manzanilla, curandera, curandero, unafraid, unapologetic, and highly educated. Esto no es magia, es sudor de nuestro empeño, el sabor de la vida que construimos. Este cuerpo estudiantil escoge ponerse en pie, nunca vivir de rodillas, nunca vivir de rodillas. This student body draws a line in the sand, but doesn't build walls between la cultura and life in the USA. A human existence is not rigid enough to bow down to borders. Minds and souls need freedom, growth, and sustainability. There are infinite pursuits of truth we cannot abandon out of fear to an English-only myth. ¿Quién mejor que ustedes? ¿Quién mejor que con sus merecidos títulos en mano? ¿Quién mejor que ustedes, los dedicados a descubrir verdades universales? ¿Quién mejor que ustedes para construir una realidad justa, nuevas oportunidades, verdaderamente americanas. You are the graduating class destined to defend what it means to be free to seek an education. Do not stand down, Modesto Junior College. Latinx graduates of 2025, stand tall, stand tall, stand tall. We stand together, unidos al afirmar, you have earned your degrees. Long live the freedom to seek an unfettered education. You know, it's an honor to address students who are going to graduate after working so damn hard, and to think that graduations that celebrate our cultura could become a thing of the past because this government is too stupid and blind and messed up in the head that it can't see us as human beings. It's a shame. And so I hope that we were talking about, you know, when students asked us earlier, like, how do you protect yourself in these times of freedom? And I know that we have discussed that sometimes we have to protest in the most sublime ways. And joy is one of them. And let them never take it away from us. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to read something about, I always write about water. And one of the poems that's in here is about water. It's about drought. I write a lot about water. Será porque soy de California y siempre tenemos el peligro de tener drought, right? Vamos a estar en sequía or whatever, right? It's always a threat. Or maybe it's just because I was born near the water. I don't know, but I'm always called to write for water. At the mercy of storms, and God damn it, we're in a storm right now, okay? At the mercy of storms, we are living in the colors of water. I can't be convinced to leave the water, the numbing cold of water.
By touch, libraries now closed to public. Extended study hours are now in effect. SJSU students of current tower cards may remain until 12 p.m. All others must exit. Once again, the library is now closed to the public. Have a safe evening.
I hallucinated through the fever, through the intercom voice. Baptize your thoughts in salt water. The body is gone. Already swimming with many sharks. Already tasted my blood. Already tasted their bodies. Best to keep yourself submerged in the waves, rolling around with the empty crab shells and Coke bottles. Best to watch your shadows reflected in the surf. Safest way, the only way now. Down into the coves I'm not allowed to go. Touch the cliffs, the turban snails, the barnacles, the sea lettuce. Touch everything. To touch you, to touch the ocean. We must not be afraid to touch. Dams break. A levee, a seawall, a sandbar, a shoreline can be eradicated, swallowed up by a wave. I am open ocean now. There is no high ground, no lagoon to shelter, no mouth of a delta or bay, no mangroves to anchor, no destiny safe enough to keep fresh water from disappearing into salt water. Isn't this the way? Isn't this the way all waterways should be? At the mercy of storms and tsunamis. Do not fight the storm. Become one with the storm. Be fluid like the water. Todo esto sagrado. Todo esto es mío, tuyo. Todo esto debía ser callado, solo hablado en el idioma de lo que existe como agua. La lluvia me entiende, contesta. La lluvia me da el lugar que ni las nubes orgullosas me han querido sinceramente ofrecer. Sospecho que te aman en secreto también. Cayendo en la tierra en forma de agua, recordarán que tú eres hombre y necesitas una mujer de barro como yo. Me estoy ahogando. Le pido a los cuervos que me roben el alma, se coman mis ojos, se traguen lo que siento, no me hacen caso tampoco. Los llamo a mí, sus plumas tan negras, tus ojos, tu pelo en vuelo, les ruego que en su vuelo me lleven envuelta. Tan amplia su sombra, en lo alto, acercándose, lleno al cielo, y se muestran reyes de todas mis nubes. Llueve, que no deje de llover, y llover calma mi alma, que si no, no lo voy a poder ver. Sin agua no hay vida, sin agua no podré detener esa inmemoria, su imagen. parado en la memoria, por fin, ahí está esperando el agua, llueve, llueve lluvia, purifica todo, limpia todas las heridas, solo deja lo mejor de todos, llueve lluvia, que nunca voy a olvidar que existimos, que somos cosa mojada, tierra mojada, que somos agua. Gracias.
Love this so much. And I know, we got the blue light special announcements over in the queue. And I'm like, no nos moverán. And Peggy's looking at me like, pero a lo mejor sí nos moverán. uh, Thank you. As long as you're not trying to check out books without a college ID, I think, yeah. And we kind of put this out there as a reading and panel, but as I mentioned earlier, that panel experience, poets, storytellers, we disrupt form all the time. And, we can learn the rules, but it's also because we're going to break the rules. And so how fitting and apropos that we're here past the hour and still taking up space. Yes. But I think a lot of times we wait until the very, very end and we're in a rush and we're like Q&A from the audience. So yeah, I have questions that I can ask us, but I've kind of snuck them in throughout, and the poetry pieces and the explanations from the storytellers have already kind of surfaced. So I wanted to turn it over to you all and give you a chance to ask your questions before we do have to, clear the room and leave it how we found it. So giving you time to think here, any questions that come up or any comments from the room? And if not, I already told y'all, I'm a professional chismosa, so I've got them. There we go.
First of all, muchísimas gracias to each of you. Amazing. Thank you. What would you say to those of us? I'm a doctoral student in addition to tenure track faculty member here. What would you say to those of us that maybe see ourselves only as scholars and might not consider ourselves also creative writers, authors, poets? What would you say to those of us that might be caught up in imposterism?
I know there's answers in the room, but I'm looking at Vicky in particular because I'm like, didn't you just publish one of your non-scholarly pieces? So not that you have pressure to answer, but I think, that question coming from you, it's just, again, like, how many times do they have to tell us that we're only one thing? And so I hope that you kind of catch the glitter, the sparkle from here and be like, you can be a great many thing. And to be a scholar that represents your community is already so expansive in ways that scholarship doesn't truly contain. So I think you feel it.
Essie, I know there's a writer in you, a creative writer, and everybody. It's given to us. It's part of our divine spirit. What happens, and I experienced this firsthand, it's colonization kicks in and they privilege certain types of writing, like the analytical. You have to silence that voice, really silence that voice, because it's all inside of you. And I know it's easier said than done. I did a PhD too, and you're survival mode. You have to write that way, but yeah, silence that analytical voice, and all the creative intuition that you already have within you will just come pouring out. But poco a poquito. Yeah.
Can I add something? Oh,
please, no, go.
Okay. I was just gonna say really quick, there's a lot of like opportunities to write in community, like with Palabras del Pueblo that has been mentioned a couple times today. Those are like online writing workshops, and they're in different genres too. La Raíz magazine also has some workshops, and who else does workshops? Yeah, there's stuff all over where you can write in community. That's always the best way, I think. Like it's like some of my favorite poems that I've written have been written like that in like community settings, because people will like share ideas, be writing about the same things, read it to each other, and then you write the next piece, and like you're in like a different kind of environment where just like I think it flows better, and like a lot of people like have the same feedback, so that could be a good opportunity to do some creative writing too.
I struggle with imposter syndrome all the time, like every reading. So I literally visualize tying her up and putting her in the trunk of my car. Like very much so, you know, because I'm like, you're going in the trunk today, bitch, because you're not going to silence me. I put my writing, that my family and my friends that know me best know that I put my writing on the back burner for like 2 decades. You need not do that. Your work and your writing, your creativity is medicine. It's medicine that our community needs right now. So like, I had a dream once, and it's, I'm gonna tell you what like the words that brought me out of the dream essentially was, stand up, rise up, and take your place among your people. You are a writer, it seems. So it's time to just take up all that space. Take it all up.
I want to invite everybody, you specifically, no, no, everybody though, that's here. There's a group called Círculo, the Poetas and Writers. And there are no hierarchies. There are no, oh, you've published, or you're that kind of writer. Oh, you're that kind of writer, and I'm this kind of writer. None of that nonsense, right? It's truly, it is community. It is making the connections. And also we, like other writers are going to tease out the writing from each other. Like that's how that works. You hear, aquí escuché a mi hermana reading, and then I was like, oh yeah, I want to read the new piece, or I hear another poem over here, and then I'm like, oh man, I want to write about that. And that's how that works. And so when you're in Círculo, please look up Círculo, the Poetas and Writers, everybody here, look it up. And we have a once a year in-person conference in Santa Cruz, California. And I heard a rumor that that's an easy place for you to get to. So Santa Cruz, California, in person, but we are a national group, international now. So we have a completely unto itself separate conference online following that one. So one weekend it's in Santa Cruz. We all get together and have a great time and write, and we're together and we celebrate each other's writing, and we listen to each other, and we do fun stuff like write group poems and go around and just be poets all over the city, just poet all over Santa Cruz. And then the next weekend we'll do it online. So please look us up. We even have fee waivers for your yearly membership. It's great. It's $50 to join. It covers your conference cost. And everybody can present at Círculo. That's another wonderful thing. Like I said, no hierarchies, right? You have an idea for a workshop, you submit it when we have the call for workshops, you might get picked. And then now we have all these fabulous workshops from all different levels. So I recommend that. Find groups. If you don't look for us, I would be upset, but no, just kidding. No, but look for other groups like that. You need a circle of people.
Yeah, enablers, and I love that. But I thought was like, I put that bitch in the trunk, because I'm like, sometimes you need to be like soothing, that little voice, and be like, it's okay, you can say something. And sometimes you need to be like, what? And so sometimes, just leaning into both ways, right? Yeah. And like finding inspiration to just let yourself write. Like, it doesn't matter if it has to be good. It doesn't matter if it's in your journal. And I think I find that a lot of times when people ask a question like you asked, you've got pages and pages and pages and pages of secret writing that you have, just kept safe, those papelitos guardados. And I think when you start asking that question, it's about that time for them to emerge and for you to bring them out. And let yourself just step into that. And also, if you're reading scholarly stuff, read scholarly stuff that breaks form, like Gloria Anzaldúa does both. Sherry Moraga does both. And there are voices who do that in this legacy of Chicanismo for sure.
Sí. So, this society is really good at labeling us and pushing us to a certain way. And it took me a long time to realize that I don't have to be any of those things. But it took me a long time. I'm 56. So you look like you're 30. Don't let 36 years of your life pass by or 26. And I don't do math. I'm a writer. Don't let 26 years of your life be dictated by what other people's expectations are of you. You are who you are, who you want to be. Just embrace it. You don't have to be one thing or another. And if you have time, energy to do that, then be that. And don't let anything else, derail you from your dream.
Don't let that time pass by.
And if you do, it wasn't like Maya Angelou like came into it in their 40s. So there's that. You know, it's never too late. And I've met some folks who are in MFA programs right now, and they're like in their 80s, and I'm like, my inspiration and hope nunca se nos pasa el tren. So, you know.
I'm sure I didn't publish my first full collection until 50. Wow.
In the future?
Apenas 3 años.
That was a good question. I feel like it got to so many layers of other questions that are unspoken in the room. Yeah.
I think we've all had that question.
Well. Any other questions from the room? Yeah, go for it.
Are you like making time every day to write, or is it you know, just as inspiration strikes? Just a little bit about like how you prioritize or make space for your writing. That might be a bit of the same question too.
The world of the internet is going to tell you right every single day. That is exhausting. I put my creative pursuits in the back burner amongst my professional pursuits, my academic pursuits, even just I like to game and sew, and that takes a lot of time just to relax. But when it comes to writing, always keep pen and paper on you. Phone's really great, but there's something about putting ink to paper that is just so satisfying. It's almost like I always picture this, like Joan of Arc unshielding her sword and being like, "Ah, me," right? And whatever comes to mind, write it down. It could be you're walking, little poetic lines, little conversations pop in your head, write it down. It could be in the shower while you're doing laundry. It's so hard because you're having this conversation or this imagination flow, and so you're just like, oh, I'll remember it. You do not. Please. My biggest lesson is write it down. But at the end of the day, you're going to make time for all the stuff that you really care about. And if you don't prioritize your creativity, your creative pursuits, those will never flourish the way academically, professionally, or even family pursuits do. So practice when you can, but also be kind to yourself that we're going through a lot. Maybe we're also going through a lot. And there's a time and a space, but when there's something that pops in your mind that's really calling to you, whether it's a dream, a stanza, or even just a little bit of like snarkiness, like a good clapback, write it down.
I also of the mindset of I should write every day from like 8 to 9 in the morning and then I'll be fine. But that doesn't happen because I don't like to wake up that early. But again, I brought a journal today because in this morning's session, I heard a couple of things. I'm like, I want to write about that, or I want to expand on that. And so always carry that with you. I think for me, it kind of goes to the first question that was asked, and the practice. I've worked in the nonprofit world for probably 30 years now, since in my 20s. And the writing I do for work is grant related, right? So it's very dry. I'm asking for money for my organization, and I'm writing reports to the city and to the county. And what I try to do when I have those really hard days of working on grants is that I allow myself some time during that week to be writing creatively. So whatever I'm writing for the grants, how do I make that? Because there's a connection between my creativity and what I'm fighting for in the community to get, right? So how to combine that, that practice. I think also allowing yourself to consider yourself a writer. It took me, I just turned 54. It's taken me, I don't know, 40 years to say I'm a writer. And so for me, I'm a writer and an artist first, and my job is my hobby. So the job that pays my bills is my hobby. And eventually I'll let that go because artists, doing art and writing is what's going to sustain me and keep me healthy. The nonprofit industrial complex will eat you up, right? And And so that balance. So again, making space for things that keep you healthy mentally and physically, for me, is writing and making art, creating, being creative, and weaning out the nonprofit over here or changing it.
And then just remembering too, like that's a very colonized idea of what writer's life is supposed to look like, to say, oh, every day between these and these hours. I tried that and I was just like sitting there, and then it was like I was all resentful, and I was like, this is not the relationship I want to have, one with my computer and two with my writing. And so I think there's a difference between prioritizing and treating it like it's supposed to be a reward, because I think that's when we get into that territory of not writing, when you're like, oh, I have to earn the time, and I'm like, what the hell, who's doing the brownie points there, like who's giving you the stars, right? And I think it's more treat it like you're right. It is my right to sit down and write, and then access that however you see fit. For me, for a while, because I was a busy mom, it was at the grocery store. I'd be on my phone, I'd be like, wait, writing poems right now, I'm brushing my teeth, and I'm like, oh my god, I keep this phrase is like brushing, and I'm still, and I'm writing a poem in my head, and I'm like, hold on, with toothpaste in my mouth. And so by any means necessary, and treat it like you're right. And treat it, for me, it becomes survival, right? And so it might not look like a writing practice every single day, but I am ready to receive my writing every single day. And that's different. And I no longer wait for me to earn it or the house to be clean enough. I just, whenever it hits, and if it's on a freaking piece of toilet paper with some lipstick, I don't care, right? Like just letting go of how it's supposed to look and where it's supposed to happen. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Essie to close this out for the evening, and hopefully y'all can buy some books at the back of the room there and get some autographs, signatures before you go.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We want to go ahead and give a shout out to San Jose Public Library, to Dulcinea Bakery, a local panaderia oaxaqueña here in San Jose on 2nd Street for the refreshments, and most of all, Peggy, Benjamin, Elizabeth, and I really want to thank Rosanna Alvarez for coming to us with this program idea and for being an amazing colega and activist and artist and inspiration. We are honored to be able to work with you. Muchísimas gracias. And thank you all for all of your amazing art, all of your work.
One last thing, for those of you who are financially capable of purchasing a book and they have them ordered and sent to you, they're available on Amazon, but don't support Amazon, support the authors directly. But support local libraries. We have already purchased copies. They're available here at the San Jose Public Library. If you're locals here, place a hold on one. At the moment, I think they're all checked out but one. If you're lucky, you can find one at the Biblioteca Latinoamericana, which has one of the largest Spanish collections just down the street. But yes, stop by our resource table. If you're from outside the area, you can still get access to our resource digital ebooks. You are lucky few to be aware that we have a new resource named Estante. If you're into novelas, I highly encourage you to check it out. It's like a streaming platform for Spanish content. And we also have Make Make to read to your children. They have Spanish picture books and read-alongs and audiobooks. So please scan your QR codes there. You can download the apps. Thank you again. Gracias a todos.
And very last thing, even though the building is closed, we're going to have time if anyone wants to purchase the book from the authors, get autographs, take pictures. Please don't feel like you have to exit the building right now. Thank you.